Hi, I'm Yarlin,
And I'm Katie.
and this is Fae and Fables, a podcast hosted by two mental health counselors who take a psych deep dive into your favorite fantasy and romantasy books.
Today, we are going to be going over The Throne of Glass, which is the first book of the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. And I am so
Woo!
excited.
I'm
I'm
so
pumped up.
excited.
This has been a long time coming.
Yeah.
I feel like we're finally reached our Zen space where we're ready to go on the journey. So, very excited about that. But before we get our conversation rolling, about the book particularly, we have some disclaimers and notes. First of all, please note that this episode contains spoilers for book one, only book one of the Throne of Glass series. So if you're following along with us, you don't have to worry about spoilers for Crown of Midnight or any of the other books. We're just going over book one. Additionally, there are several potentially triggering themes that are discussed, including themes around enslavement, colonization, violence and gore, sexual assault, war, and imprisonment. Additionally, we use explicit language in this podcast, and adult content may be included in the episode. Further, this podcast is hosted by two mental health counselors, but it should not be used to diagnose, treat, or address any individual mental health concerns or conditions. The knowledge, opinion, and experiences that we express are related to mental health as we see in our own experience and should not be applied to your own treatment. This is just for fun. If you feel like you need mental health treatment, please make sure to seek out your own individualized care with your own providers.
Yeah.
Today, there are several things we're going to go over. We're going to do our rankings and ratings, where we talk about our star ratings and chili pepper ratings, which is very interesting in a YA series.
Yeah.
We're going to go through our plots and thoughts analysis, where we analyze the psychology of the characters in the book, our tee-hee moments, which just are moments where we get Twitter-pated, our therapy deep dive, where we take some of these concepts out into the real world space. And then Yarlin will be providing her future thoughts and theories. You'll see in a moment why it's just Yarlin. But that is the order of events today. Usually, at this point, we would dive right in. But I think it's important for us to state how we're going to move through this series, and also how Yarlin and I are coming into this series. Sarah J. Maas's works and her books are so, I think, prolific in fantasy and romantasy spaces, and they are so deeply beloved. Like, the fandom is poppin'. So Yarlin and I are going to give our context for where we're at sort of in the Maasverse. And then we'll talk about how we're going to read these books or read this series. So Yarlin, what have you read of Sarah J. Maas, and kind of what is your experience with her works so far?
Yeah, so I first started reading ACOTAR, and that was my first Sarah J. Maas kind of like books that I've read, which I really enjoyed. And then I read the first Crescent City book. I haven't read the other two yet, but I do have them.
Okay. All right. On the TBR.
They're on the TBR, and Throne of Glass was like another big one that you and I have talked about of wanting to get into, and especially with how we want to cover the Sarah J. Maas verse in the podcast.
Yeah.
You recommended doing Throne of Glass first.
Yep. Yeah. We so Yarlin's sort of mid, like, she's gotten most of the other Sarah J. Maas books outside of Throne of Glass done, but this is your first foray into Throne of Glass. I am fully steeped. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm reading the books. I've read all of her books multiple times. This will be my third time reading Throne of Glass.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I've read ACOTAR twice. I've read Crescent City twice, the full series. So I am like red string on a corkboard. Like, I know so much of the theories the things, and we really so when we were talking about how do we want to do Sarah J. Maas books, we and kind of where are Sarah J. Maas books at currently, everyone is twiddling their thumbs waiting for the next ACOTAR book.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
people are getting feral. Every time there's a date that's like maybe relevant, everyone's like, maybe she'll announce here, maybe she'll announce there. And she has not yet. So what we figured is we would go through Throne of Glass first on the podcast.
Yeah.
In hopes that as we go through this, it'll give SJM enough time to announce when ACOTAR is going to come out.
Yeah.
And our hope is once she does that, that we will then go through ACOTAR in order leading up to the book 6 release. We're really relying on SJM to come through with that. We don't know if that's true, but we figured Throne of Glass is a good place to start. So, because I have read all of Sarah J. Maas's books and all of Throne of Glass, I am going to be acting for my life. I am going to be if you've read Throne of Glass, the full series, if you're listening, if you read it, you're going to hear me spitting some bullshit sometimes.
And you're like, oh, wow,
oh,
really?
Interesting. Yeah, like it's going to be Oscar worthy stuff over here.
You'll get a Grammy or something. All right.
Yeah, and then when you've read them all, we need to go back and then you'll re-listen to this and you'll be like, wow, Katie really committed to the bit. So I'm committing to the bit. I'm here. If you hear me say opinions that seem a little wonky, if you've read the whole series, it's because I'm on the journey with Yarlin. I'm not giving it away. So, please know that I'm here in the process and I'm going to do my best. Further, if you are a part of the Maasverse, you know that there are certain reading orders for Throne of Glass that people have very strong opinions about.
Right.
Specifically around Assassin's Blade, which is technically the prequel to the Throne of Glass series itself.
Got it.
And there is the potential for some tandem reading throughout. I'm not even going to tell you. I'm not going to explain that further to you. But there are some people who decide to do tandem reading. Knowing what I know, I've made some decisions for the both of us about how we're going to go through this. So if you're upset, don't be upset at Yarlin, be upset at me because I'm the one who chose kind of how we were doing this. And we have decided that we are going to, one, follow the books in order of publication when they were published. And the reason for this is I think it can be important to follow the trajectory of Sarah J. Maas as a writer.
Yeah.
As she was developing this series. So we're going to be doing publication order. I know people have feelings about that, but I think being able to see her writing style build throughout this series is really important. And then the other thing is we will not be doing tandem reading. Yeah, that was just like a personal, like we both were like, I don't really feel like doing that. So
I've seen people like talking and like almost like a whole like spreadsheet type of thing of like which chapter to start off from, or like, okay, that sounded like too much work. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
I have a lot of other things going on to kind of like read like 3 books at a time. So
yeah, sorry, not sorry. We were in agreement about that. We were both like, so we don't want a tandem read, right?
Yeah, the story will be great with the way we're doing it.
Oh yeah.
And that'll be fine.
And if you're on board with no tandem reads and publication order, hell yeah, we love that. If that seems a little wonky to you, we encourage you to, go on the journey with us. And if you read it in a different way.
Because what's the other way, aside from publication?
So some people will read Assassin's Blade first because it's the prequel, and then you read, Assassin's Blade,
Yeah, because I have like the physical book series, and Assassin's Blade is the first one there.
Because that would be time ordered. And then there is a version where you can read it sort of for like maximum emotional damage, like how it will affect you. Which is another, it's just a slight shift of whether you read it before Heir of Fire or after.
Interesting.
That seemed like a less of a big deal to me. So, but really for me, it was about kind of an acknowledgement of Sarah J. Maas's writing
Yeah,
and
I
following
do.
through.
I think because if you like bounce around and you go from like a book that's kind of a little bit more like teenage writing style or like
Mhm.
not as developed as her other later work, and then you jump into one that's already like more fully developed, you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
like what's this shift? At least as I feel like maybe how I would be, I'll be like, oh, this one's really more detailed and different.
Yes, and that's exactly I didn't want I didn't want the, like, herky jerky of that.
Yeah.
So, now you know our thinking, you know
Yes.
how we're gonna proceed, so you could even, if you wanted, if you didn't like that, just wait for the Assassin's Blade episode to come out, and then you listen in
Yeah.
whatever order you feel like you wanna listen in.
Yeah.
There's freedom here. But yes, so please note, that we're going to go through it in this way, and that, uh, we, mostly through my corkboard stuff, are very aware of what's happening in the wider, like, fandom for the most part.
Yeah.
And we really wanna try to pay homage, 1, to the series itself and to the author and to the characters, but also to the way that we like reading and the way that we enjoy series.
Yeah.
Those are our disclaimers. It was a robust disclaimer
Yeah.
age today.
For this series, it was much needed because we
Necessary.
don't want to cause any heat. But
We don't want to bring a heat. So now that we've done that, we're going to move on to our rankings
Oh
and our
yeah.
ratings. So, Yarlin, what were your stars and what were your chili peppers?
Well, this one was a 2 out of 5. Okay.
Yeah.
And I feel like I know we're pushing through. If this was my own personal journey with Throne of Glass, I don't think I would have kept reading it.
Yeah.
But I'm doing it for the plot and I'm doing it for the pod. But I think
I love that, for the plot and for the pod. We need to make t-shirts that
Oh
say
my
that.
gosh. Idea?
Oh, planted. When you listen back to this later,
Okay, we're
write
creating
this down.
merch. Okay, we should totally create merch. All of our friends will buy them
Oh.
and support friends and family. Wait, that's awesome.
Oh, well, okay, it's happening. You've heard it here first. For the plot and for the pod. Oh my god, I love this. I'm excited.
Okay, I love that. We need to write that down. So, yes, if it was up to me, I mean, I listened to this in audiobook. I was a little bit in a reading slump. I want to give kind of just those ideas in mind where maybe my headspace wasn't in a fantasy world. Like I've like had like more dark romancy, stalker romance in mind, but I feel like there was just like you mentioned, like this was a little bit, it doesn't pick up a bit until like book 3. And I feel like that is a bit of a commitment for me personally, at least. I like a book to get me right from the beginning. And yeah, so 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
Chili, 1 out of 5. It's a
Oh,
YA, you know.
I think that's a part of our challenge with this as well, is we do adult books so often. See our Enchantra episode. Yeah, that's the space that we live in. So YA is a shift for us, that we're moving away from, expecting spice or expecting, all these different things that we get out of the other books that we review. Also, I will say, the first time I read these books, I was in a pretty similar place. Now, I kept going. It wasn't something where I necessarily thought I was going to stop, but to me, and now I know that Sarah J. Maas started writing these as a teenager and publishing them as a teenager.
Which is amazing.
Incredible.
At 15 or what? I would not. I'm more of a Dr. Seuss girl. Green Angels Ham. No, I'm just joking. But I cannot.
Yeah, no. If I were to try to write something at 15, it'd be like a Wattpad,
right?
One of those like crappy.
Yeah.
Like
I lived for Twilight, and I can dig that type of writing and all of that. But yeah, I think maybe starting this, if I would have read Throne of Glass maybe when I was younger, then I think I would have felt differently about it. But now reading as an adult and reading how like different other like maybe higher fantasy books and things like that.
Yeah.
I think that's why it didn't like capture me too much yet.
And that's that's something that I have sort of preempted for Yarlin, because I don't also want her to be tortured with the idea that the writing stays like this.
Yeah.
But when the first time I read this series, I would have probably given it a 2 out of 5 as well. And part of that was I was so focused on the relationships, and
Right.
I think you can see the youngness of her as an author through those
For sure.
relationships. Knowing what I know now, my rating has gone up. And I'm not going to go any further into that, but my rating has gone up for my own reasons. And so when I read it now the third time, I was hovering. I was at like a 3.5. I was like between a 3 and a 4 pretty much. So I wrote on our thing 3.5 to 4.
Yeah.
Knowing what I know.
Right, based on your history, but if you were reading this like how I did,
if I was just,
it would be 2 out of 5.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. And it would have been that's if we were having this conversation and I just read the first one, I think it would be true.
Was someone like, were you buddy reading this series the first time, or was like someone kind of like forcing you through it? Like, you know how
yeah. So I went through the Sarah J. Maas books in a really weird order. I kind of got into book talk really early, like before book talk, because I've always been a bookish girl. Like, I have always read. It has never stopped for me. It's not like when book talk got big, it like reignited a passion. Like, I've been a simp for like pretty much since Twilight, Hunger Games. Like, in high school, I literally was the kid with a book in my face walking down the hall, and people would be like, how are you doing that? I'm like, I have to know if it's Edward or Jacob before I get to bio. Like, I can't, I have to know. So I think because that was kind of where my algorithm was at anyway, when book talk started coming out, I was like very early in seeing some of that content. And very early on, ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, was starting to come through book talk. And I kept seeing it and seeing it. I was like, and of course, again, this is pre-book talk fully blowing up. I'm the only one that's seeing it. And my friends, I had one friend who had read Throne of Glass like a while ago. But she hadn't read ACOTAR. And none of my other friends had heard of it. And so and this will make sense in a second. Do you ever do a Yankee swap? Do you know what a Yankee swap is? Or a white elephant?
You told me this story before.
Yeah. I bring this book to a Yankee swap, but I'm the kind of person that what I bring to the Yankee swap is what I want to take home. And you could judge me for that. That's fine. Do you. But like, I want to make sure that there's something good there. And the only way to do that is make sure I have something good. So really, Yankee swaps to me become a challenge of just getting my own gift back.
What did you take? ACOTAR?
Oh, yeah. I took ACOTAR. I had ACOTAR, and there was another thing in the bag to like distract from the fact that ACOTAR was in there.
Yeah.
And this is like lore within my friend group. I will never forget this my whole life. If you know, if you're listening to this, so we're going through the whole thing, and my friend who had read Throne of Glass sees A Court of Thorns and Roses, and is like, I want that book. And I was like, you better not take that book.
Is so funny.
I'm taking that book. She took it. She won she won ACOTAR, and then I had to go buy another copy.
Hey,
for
you did
myself.
it.
I did it. I did it to myself. I shouldn't have done that. So I started reading ACOTAR, but I had read it was either I read all of ACOTAR or Silver Flames hadn't come out yet. Either one. So midway through, hold up. No, I had read all of ACOTAR. Then I read the first Crescent City. Then the second one hadn't come out yet. So I went to Throne of Glass, read all of Throne of Glass except for Assassin's Blade. Because I'm not usually a big prequel person. So you really have to hook me. So I was like, I'm not gonna read that.
True.
So it was like ACOTAR, First Crescent City, Throne of Glass. Except for
this is kind of like what I did.
I'm jumping around. Yeah, it is.
I literally read ACOTAR first.
Yep.
first Crescent City and then
Yeah.
now Throne of Glass.
Now Throne of Glass. We are going to have you read Assassin's Blade, though,
Yes.
because that's important. I didn't realize that till later. And then I went back and read Crescent City 2. Then, before the third one came out, I reread all of them, including Assassin's Blade.
Oh my goodness.
And then Crescent City 3.
You know, I'm not a rereader. I have not reread a book yet.
Really?
Yeah.
I am with long fantasy series because the first time you read it, like, I'm so focused on, like, who gets together and, like, I'm like speed reading because I want to know what happens.
Yeah.
That some of the lore stuff, I'm like, blah, 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 you're saying stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
So the second read, one, I'm more focused on the lore. So I'm like, oh, this is how it comes together. And then also it helps me remember details better.
Yeah.
Like, if you ask me about a long involved fantasy series that I read 3 years ago, the details are
I'm
very
definitely
rocky.
I would say I'm more of a movie rewatcher because I mean, you know, I love like Harry Potter and things like that, like those things, Lord of the Rings, like I watch those movies all the time and I rewatch them. But I haven't like reread the books yet. I've been wanting to do a ACOTAR reread, but I'm gonna save that for when we cover it on the pod. I just feel like there's too many books to read for me to like reread something I've already read. You know what I mean?
I can understand that sort of way of approaching books. I think for me, sometimes it becomes a solidification. Solidifying? Yeah, why did I go crazy with that? Solidifying of the lore.
Yeah.
And 2, it becomes a comfort read. Like, now I know I'm an anxious girly, as we all know. I like the comfort of knowing what's going to happen in series that I really enjoy. So, like, sometimes I'll just go back to, like, you know, Mist and Fury, or I'll go back to Kingdom of Ash, or and I'll like reread sections of the book because they're just, I enjoy them and I know what's going to happen. It's comforting.
Yeah.
And I'll do the same with shows and movies. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've watched Bridesmaids. It's so comforting to me.
Does it have Anne Hathaway?
No.
Wait, which one is it?
It's Melissa McCarthy and
I like her. She's funny.
A comedian who was on SNL. I mean, they're bridesmaids for In This Wedding. Maya Rudolph.
I feel like I have read it. I mean, I feel like I have seen it.
Okay, you know how you freaked out when I didn't watch Beetlejuice? This is my version of Beetlejuice. We'll have a Beetlejuice day. We'll have like a spooky day.
Perhaps this weekend.
Summerween.
Summerween. Y'all don't know I love Halloween so much.
Oh yeah.
So
you're a Halloween girly.
We need this is a Summerween moment. Okay, I'm gonna overtake one day and I'm gonna make it a Summerween day for us.
We're going away this weekend on like a very bookish.
We're going on vacation.
A little vacation. And our plans are pretty much to sit on a beach and read. Although now we have Summerween Beetlejuice.
Plans.
We have
hijacking. I am vetoing this.
But yeah, so we'll have to then have my comfort movies that, like,
which I'm like sure I've seen it because
also Couples
I love
Retreat.
watching movies.
Have you ever watched Couples Retreat?
Yes.
It's like Vince Vaughn.
Yes.
It's like Bridesmaids and Couples Retreat are like the little humorous, like comforting. Okay, so we'll have Summerween. Then we got to have, I don't know what you would call the other one, but comforting little comedy day.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
Okay. All right. Good. We've scheduled that in.
Plans are settled.
Plans established. Merch established. Plans established.
Isn't that crazy? I literally wrote it down for the plot for the pod. Like, that's an amazing, and we can make it all cutesy.
Yeah. Oh, the plans
like Bridgerton vibes.
Oh my, I
love like Coquette. Love that.
Okay.
I love that. And then also we do have to make like a more scarier theme or like
of
horror.
Course. If we're gonna
with a sword or something, a dragon,
spooky.
We will connect.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna workshop it and we'll come back to y'all with the results. So yes, that is a very winding conversation to arrive at the fact that I would have done 2 out of 5 first read. For me
Yes.
now it's 3.5, almost bordering on 4 out of 5.
Mm.
Not for the relationships or the writing, but for what I know.
Yes.
And my chili peppers were also 1 out of 5. I had to dig deep for those TPs,
Yeah.
let me tell you what.
I feel like I would have given it a 0 out of 5, but I didn't even
I don't know.
if
Are we allowed to do that? That's what I had the similar moment.
I was like, I literally have nothing.
Yeah, I literally was like, I feel like just because it's YA, it should be 0, but our scale is 1 out of 5 or 1 to 5. So I said,
gave it a 1.
Yeah, I said, all right. So now that leads us to our plots and thoughts analysis, where we review our plot points, and then we're going to analyze and examine the psychology of these characters as established by us. As always, it's our perspectives. So take it as that is. I'm going to set the scene for you. We're going to go through the main characters, and then we'll move into the plot. This world is centered around the country or continent of Aurelia. Aurelia has several different human territories, but we arrive in this book at a time for this continent that Adderlin, I think it might. Also, please note, I haven't listened to this on audiobook, so I am going through the pronunciation.
I can't even remember, to be honest, how they pronounced it.
I'm going to do my best with pronunciation.
I feel like it's Adderlin.
Okay, I'll go with that then. I'll believe you, because I feel like when you're a like audiobook girly, you get all the pronunciation right because it's being pronounced for you. When you're a read it girly, it's like it's a hit or miss event. So if I mispronounce, it's not for my lack of caring about the series. It's just I've never listened to it. So Adderlin is a country within this territory that is systematically overtaking or subjugating and enslaving other territories in the region. You hear of places like Elwë or Elwë, Melisande, Terrasen, Wendelin. There are several, Fenharrow. There are several other places that are being taken over by Adderlin and incorporated into that kingdom. It is also important to note that in this world, there used to be magic, and we are given a sense throughout the book of what kinds of magic used to appear. But what we know for sure is that all of this magic and the magical creatures that used to exist, including the Fae, have all been eradicated. That magic has been squashed in this world by the King of Adderlin. So we're kind of looking at very like colonizer vibes. Very trying to sort of take over the world's stuff. And several of the other territories have already fallen, including places like Terrasen. I believe, I don't know if Melisande had fallen, where they were at this point, but there are also territories that are holding out. One of them, most importantly for this book, is Elwë. They have not fallen to Adderlin yet, and it's noted that there's tension there, and that there are people being enslaved from all of these territories and put into labor camps. There are 2 labor camps, Endivir and Calaculla, and that's where all of the rebels that would seek to fight back are sent, and essentially is sent to work until they die. Now, within this world, there are several characters we're going to meet, but the 3 main characters of the story for this book are Celaena Sardothien, Chaol Westfall, and Dorian Havillard. Celaena Sardothien is the female main character, and she is a famous assassin. She's Adderlin's assassin, and she was enslaved in the prison camp Endivir for 1 year. And at the very top, she's in Endivir, and people come and get her to take her to the capital of Adderlin and compete in a tournament. And I'll get into the details of that. But physically, she is described as having this long like light blonde or flaxen hair and these striking turquoise eyes. And in the middle of her turquoise eyes is this amber or golden
Mm.
sort of like rim
Cute.
around her pupil. Yeah, she's very, it's interesting because at the very top of the book, she's described as someone who has a couple of striking features.
Mm.
Um, but she's not the most beautiful person ever.
Mm.
Now, that's from her own estimation.
Right.
That's also when she's in Endeavor and she's like emaciated and all this stuff. So I think her estimation of her own beauty is because like Kale and Dorian both comment on her beauty. So
Right.
I think you
Yeah.
see a little bit of the like not being able to perceive yourself element here. But she's, you know, once she leaves Endeavor and starts training and all these things, she's athletic in build, sort of like, you know, very she seems agile and she runs a lot. So picturing like a kind of athletic
Yeah.
woman with long blonde hair.
I'm sure that builds up her confidence too.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Kale is the captain of the guard for the King of Otterlin, and he has chestnut brown hair and these molten brown eyes.
Mm.
Selena describes him as not the most attractive man ever, but he's sort of got this like ruggedness about him.
Mm.
Yarlin's
I like a
getting
little
into it. He
rugged.
sort of has like this rugged handsomeness that's like
Yeah. Almost like
a
a cowboy kind of
yeah,
like handsome.
yeah, he's sort of roughly
Yeah,
handsome.
yeah. Mm.
And then you're like, I mean, different strokes for different folks, you know what I'm saying? And then we have Dorian Haviliard, who is the Prince of Otterlin and the future king. And he is described as the most beautiful man. Like,
Mm.
Selena is flabbergasted by his beauty. And he has this gorgeous black hair and these
You like the
beautiful
black hair.
blue eyes. And
Yeah.
he's beautiful.
He's striking.
He's striking, yes. So
Yeah.
he clearly like up between Kale and Dorian, he would be like what would be more classically like
Yeah.
handsome, and
Right.
he's very good with the ladies and all of
Yeah,
that
even the
stuff.
ladies in the court are like out. I
Oh,
remember when I was listening to this scene, it was like winter or something, and
mhm,
all the ladies were out with their fur coat just
mhm.
outside in the court to just watch him
Oh yeah,
walk
they follow him
by.
around.
And I'm
Oh
like,
well,
"What?"
and they start doing that to Kale too.
Ah, yeah.
They both get ladies eventually. Dorian has them throughout. Kale gets them along the way, but
Mm.
Dorian is very one. He's wanted because he's the prince and
That's
they
also
want
true.
power. But
Mhm.
he also he's suave with it. He's suave and he's got the ladies and he's very much a
I
ladies
see.
guy
Yeah.
throughout the book, which is a joke that Selena and Dorian have between them. She's like, "Oh, you got all your girlfriends," and he's like, "Well, I can make time for you." And
You see, I'm not into that energy too much.
me either. Me
Yeah.
either. I don't want to hear that you can make time for me.
Yeah,
That's
no.
not my vibe.
No, I don't like that.
So he's a bit of a rake, if we were to use Bridgerton terms, a bit of a rake. And Kale is this very like serious, stoic, kind of like honor bound man. Like he's just
Yeah.
like, I need to do what's right by the king and my people.
Yeah.
So those are the characters, and I'm gonna kind of set the scene and
Yes.
periodically just get your takes psychologically on what's going on with these characters. So as I mentioned, Selena is in a labor camp called Endeavor. She's been there for a year, which is much longer than most people survive that kind of thing.
Mm.
And she is pulled from her work by a cloaked figure.
Yeah.
To what end she doesn't know right away, but what we know now is that it's Kale who's in a sort of hooded cloak, and she's brought to the prince, Dorian, and they tell her that she is going to compete, or she has the opportunity to compete in a series of tests and be the king's champion. That if she
Mhm.
wins these tests, she can be the king's champion, and she basically becomes the king's does the king's bidding,
Right.
or becomes his assassin essentially. She will serve the king if she wins for 4 years. They kind of negotiate it out, but for 4 years, and then she gets her freedom. That's the
Mm.
word she latches onto. She's
Yeah.
like, skirt,
Yeah.
Either I die in Enderveer, I work until I die in Enderveer, or I try to do this competition
Yeah.
and potentially get my freedom in 4 years. I can see kind of what I would do.
Yeah.
She takes the deal, and she is taken to the capital of Otterland, which is called Rifthold. And there's a very striking castle there. There's an original stone castle, and then on top of that, a giant glass castle has been constructed.
Ooh.
Yeah, over it. It's very interesting to like think about the construction of that.
Yeah.
I think it's very different looking than what you'd see in like your usual fantasy book.
Right.
And it's also funny because Selena does not like the glass part. She's like, this is all so flimsy. She stays in the old castle. She likes it better in the old
Yeah.
castle. But there are these giant glass spires that are sort of looming over Rifthold or the city there.
Mm.
When she meets the king of Otterland, she quickly discovers that the king is bad news for her and for a lot of other people too. He's clearly trying to take over every other territory, and he doesn't really care or show any warmth to anyone, including his own son. And you
Mm.
see this play out across the book where he's very cold to Dorian,
Yeah.
and they're often at odds. Dorian kind of pushing him to stay his hand from violence or other things, but the king expects subservience and like you must lower your eyes, and like it's
Yeah.
very power grabby and like you must do as I say. And so she does not like being in the same room with him. She does not like talking to him, and often when she has to go talk to him, she's like shaking and
Mm.
other things. It affects her really strongly
Yeah.
to be around him. But what ends up happening is she meets the king. He kind of makes her grovel or whatever, be like, thank me for my beneficence. And she bows her head and thanks him for his beneficence. And she learns that she will be competing under an alias as a jewel thief named Lillian Gordiana from Fenharrow. And Kale, who's the one who's going to be training her throughout this time, instructs her to stay. She's one of many, members of the competition.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it starts, there's like 20 of them, somewhere around there. And Kale comes to her and says, "You're going to be Lillian, and you're also going to try to stay in the middle of the pack. Don't get fancy with it. Don't try to kick everyone's ass. Be in the middle of the pack, complete the challenges, but don't attract attention, because whoever's attracting attention is going to become a target. We don't want you to be a target." But what Kale knows and what Selena knows and what Dorian all know is that she could kick their ass if she wanted to. She is Otterland's assassin. And I say that with great gravitas because it means something significant in this world. She has trained for 10 years under a man named Arabin Hamel, who's the king of assassins in this realm. And she has undergone training of all kinds. She goes to the Red Desert. She goes to all these places.
Wow.
She's a vicious, like skilled
Yeah.
killer. She can wield knives, swords, maces. There's some of these tests where she's like, they're trying to give us this information I already know. Like
She's like child's play.
Precisely. At 18, she's like, I've already done all of this, you fools. And then she like takes a drag of like one of those long cigarettes. No, she doesn't. She does not smoke. No smoking.
Did they say that she's 18? Because I don't remember her age.
Yes.
Okay.
So you find out throughout the story that Arabin Hamel found her at 8 years old, rescued her from something. We don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And then brought her to the to his keep to train her as an assassin for 10 years.
Got it.
And you can tell that some of his tests are quite grueling. She doesn't go fully into it, but she mentions a couple of them, and it's no small thing to be training as an assassin under Arabin Hamel.
Yeah, even at that young, I can only imagine what those tests were like. So to become the best assassin,
yeah, we will find out. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. So to Selena, it really grates on her that Kale's telling her to be in the middle of the pack. She's like,
Mm,
I could just kick everybody's ass, and why are you having me be mediocre? She
right.
does not like that.
Yeah.
She loves to be great at shit, and she loves to show it off. And she's been told that she can't. So she sort of sticks to the middle of the pack. She's like, I'm pretending to be half okay about out at this.
Mhm.
And as we go through the trials themselves, underneath that, we're getting glimpses of her past, that she's sort of giving us these little snippets. We find out that she's originally from the territory of Terrasen, but that her family was murdered, and that's how she ended up under the care of Arabin at 8. She trained, as I said, as an assassin for 10 years, and then something happened, and she was betrayed, captured, and sent to Endivere.
Mm.
We also find out that she had I don't know if you could say boyfriend, partner, lover,
I
because
love a
a person, you don't kind of figure out, we don't know what he is to her
yeah.
totally.
Mhm.
But she had a partner named Sam who died as a result of this betrayal,
Mm.
and it really impacts her
Yeah.
heavily. So already at 18, she has been through
A
the murder
lot.
of her parents, of her partner. She's been enslaved for a year. There's a lot. Even training under Arabin, like, so much has happened to her. And you and I both know and work often with trauma and the impacts of trauma. So that my first instinct was to be like, looking at the role of trauma for Selena in her story. So when you look at all of these things that have happened, how do you think her trauma history, all these traumas that she's gone through,
Yeah.
how do you think that impacts her psychology, who she is as a character, and how she moves through the world?
I definitely think it gravely impacts her view of the world, maybe even like view of her future, and kind of just like living the day to day. Because
Mm,
whether it's not sure what will come the next day, but definitely I feel like it shifts her trust in others and like inability to pursue like friendships or kind of just being closed off. So that's kind of what I noticed
mm,
as, she has her uh conversations with Kale and Dorian and things like that. I remember thinking, I was like, why is she, like she's like not interested in like
mm.
talking much to them or like developing anything. But
Yeah, I think I like that you highlight this piece, because I think you see several times her holding back
yeah.
significantly or projecting something
Mhm.
to cover for because there are moments where she feels tenderness toward both of them, but she refuses to show it. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not giving them that. So she's
Yeah.
got this
You definitely can tell that there was something there that was like
yeah.
the reason why.
She's got this swagger that
Mm.
covers for some of her more tender
Yeah.
the more tender parts of herself. I'm
Yeah.
even thinking about the part where she's playing the pianoforte, which she
Mm.
does quite well. She was also trained to play the piano. Um,
She's got all the training.
Listen, I've been playing piano since I was 6. That's no joke. Getting trained doing piano your whole life, that's a commitment.
Wow.
So she's playing the pianoforte and she thinks she's alone. And
Uh-huh.
Dorian kind of sneaks up and hears her playing, and
Yeah.
she does not like
Like an
showing.
audience,
Yeah,
yeah.
she doesn't like showing that vulnerability. So there are several moments where her softer, more vulnerable parts or sides kind of pop out, peek out, or she's afraid that they might, and
Yeah.
she covers it with this sort of snark and swagger, and it's these defense mechanisms to
Which
keep.
and I think yeah, I think once you see that and you see a person kind of, like, going through life that way,
Mm,
it just you feel for it and you're just like, "You don't have to do that," but because of everything she's gone through, um, like, her vulnerability is something that she's not willing to show
mm.
others, and yeah.
Yeah, it's I think some of her protective impulses are part of her character. She definitely has a swagger outside of the trauma,
Yeah.
which I think is really fun. And and it holds her back from some from being able to connect in a deeper, more genuine way.
Yes.
I will also say she's under conditions that are like she's in this competition. It's
True.
it's Dorian's father that's running this. So I also see her a couple of times. I think there are sometimes she uses that swagger to cover vulnerability. I
Mhm.
also think there are times where she makes a calculation about her safety and goes, "I am not going here with you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's like that lack of trust because she doesn't
Mhm.
really know them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, you know?
She goes, "I don't know you." And when you've been betrayed
Yeah.
to a and we don't know the
The
manner of the
extent,
betrayal or
yeah.
the details, but when you've been betrayed in that way and sent to a labor camp,
Yeah.
um, I would be slow to trust somebody after that.
I
So
agree.
we can see why it happens, and I think, like, if I were Selena's, counselor,
Yeah.
it would be, I think, a really important trajectory to build trust with her in order to
Yes.
help her feel safe to be vulnerable. That would be
Yeah.
that's my
That is
pull.
my instinct as well of
Mm,
just like I want to help her be able to express her vulnerability and just be herself without holding back. That's where I lean towards. I'm like,
yes.
"Oh, I want to be able to
I love that
help
we both had
her."
that instinct. I think
Yeah,
that's
it's
it.
cuz it's our
When you're a
thing.
counselor, you can't
Yeah.
help but want there's certain characters that
We
you
want
feel
the
that
best
pull.
for people and
Yeah.
we want people to be the best version of themselves and once you learn like not so great behaviors or cycles and things like that, you're just like you don't have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
And
yeah.
there's a pull to be like, you don't have to do that here. You don't have to do that with me. You can like
Yes.
I'm a person that you can have that vulnerability with. And I think Selena would also be the kind of person where as a counselor I'd really have to earn that trust. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
can say that to you, but one of the I think challenges for counselors is when people come in to see us for the first time, we're asking them to trust
Oh
us.
yeah.
And they don't even know us. They're like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're going to do with my
Yeah.
vulnerability. So it's such a powerful process to
Oh
like
yeah.
hold space and holds like to wait for a client to feel comfortable enough.
Mm,
And it's an honor, I think, when a
yeah.
client makes that little trust, gives us a little something. It's like, what are you going to do with this? And sees that I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to,
Yeah.
I'm going to hold that with you and be here with you and be
Yeah.
tender with that. And it's such
Yeah.
a cool thing.
For me, I feel that work is so much more with teen clients,
Oh yeah.
and once they, build the trust with me and come to the realization that I'm not like every other like adult or like parent in their lives who's maybe like being too hard on them and things like that. So
Mm,
I find such joy seeing when like my teen clients build the trust with me and we have like a nice time and they feel comfortable because, teens are going through so much things already on their own and they're coming to a place where they don't want to come. Their parents are forcing them
mm,
and yeah, you're gonna have a lot of times where they're not gonna wanna talk to you.
yeah.
There's a lot of rapport building.
Oh yeah, and I've worked with folks. It's so interesting because the as you say that, the first thing that comes to my mind is I've worked a lot with folks who have been incarcerated.
Mm.
It's very similar. It's like you are a person of the system. I'm being told I have to be here.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to talk to you, and
Yeah.
you know what? I get that. Like
For
I wouldn't
sure.
want to talk to me. You know what I mean? So there's a level of Selena's experience where I can see it's like I get why you don't want to go
Mhm.
there. Um, and I love that you bring up teens because I think we also have to remember she's 18 years old.
Right.
And
Yeah.
your frontal lobe
It's
is
not
still
developed.
developing.
It's not
Is
developed
still
yet.
developing. She is and there is I think a nice push pull that um Sarah J. Maas does at certain points where she seems to be so sort of calculating and violent at points, but then there are parts where she's like very girlish. It's like she's a like an 18-year-old girl, like or
Yeah.
18 I mean I get at that point like an 18-year-old woman, but just this side of womanhood, like
Yeah.
just like
Just discovering that and, like, seeing,
yeah,
like, who she wants to be, I'm sure.
seeing taking into account her developmental stage.
Yeah.
There are some moments where I experience her as immature,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think I have to remember that she's 18, and sometimes if I think about who I was at 18,
Right. Oof.
I was making
Turbulence.
I can't speak for other people, but I was making decisions. I was making some decisions that
Oh, yeah.
I question now.
For sure.
We
We are ahead now.
yeah, we are older now. How much older? That's neither here nor there. But you know, if I look back on who I was at 18, I think I can track some actions that I would look back now and be like, "Girl, what are you doing?"
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
anyway, Selena goes, she agrees to all this reluctantly, and she begins training for the competition. And because she's been in end of year, she starts very emaciated, weak. She's throwing up a lot because she's trying to eat, but it's like her body rejects it. And
Yeah.
slowly but surely, she starts getting stronger and better. She's getting back in shape. She's running farther. She's
Yes.
doing it. She's doing pull-ups and the door frames and stuff. She's gym broing it up.
Oh my
She's
god.
what's like a woman version of a himbo? Like you know what I'm talking about? Like
No.
the himbos at the gym. Have you ever heard of
I don't know
this?
what a himbo is.
Well, you know,
I
like
know what a
the
gym
woman.
bro
No,
is.
the girl version would be a bimbo. It's a himbo. It's a
Oh,
himbo. And so
got it.
it's like that gym bro mentality where it's like, yeah, I got to get my macros and like pump my iron or whatever. Listen, when I go to the gym, there's a whole it's like gym bro alleyway. It's like you walk in and you have to walk through the gauntlet to get to the treadmills.
Oh no.
And so I'm always like, hold your head high. You gotta, project confidence. Be
Don't look around
confident.
too much.
Don't let them see your weakness.
Oh my gosh.
So she's eating her protein. She has her macros in order.
She has her greens.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Also, she has a vicious sweet tooth. She literally like Dorian gives her candy at one point. She eats like a pound of candy in one sitting.
I don't
So
remember this.
oh girl, it's
What the
if you
heck?
pay attention.
Yeah.
She loves chocolate cake. She's always eating her chocolate cake. This is
It's literally giving
reading
teen.
cycle number 3.
Yeah.
You start noticing you start like, oh, there's the cake again. So she loves her sweets, but she's getting swole at the medieval gym. Alongside the training, there are some interesting, I don't know if you call them romantic happenings or just like
Possibilities
possibilities, situationship stuff.
Yeah.
Again, it's all very YA, but
Yeah.
Kale is her trainer, which gives us some opportunities for like physical closeness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Sarah J. Maas does not take literally the hundreds of opportunities, like all that stuff that we usually talk about where they're pressed against the wall. None of that. They're training together and and they have initially a pretty contentious relationship. They're arguing back and forth. Kale Selena has this sort of like devil may care, like I'm gonna skirt the rules kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Kale is so honorable.
Right.
He's by the book. He wants to do the right thing. And so they butt heads on this because she's like shifty and he's like, no, do the right thing. But as you move forward, they kind of develop a friendship. There's a shared understanding between them in the realm of combat, and they kind of like that sort of like spar of, like their differences or whatever, and you could see them both developing a warmth toward each other. Simultaneous to that, Dorian is kind of immediately attracted to her just visually. It's just like she's a pretty girl or a beautiful woman, and they pretty early on have attraction to each other. They both wonder like, what would it be like to touch them? What would it be like to kiss? Again, no mention of anything else, just a touch of the skin, and in chaste places, and also a very warm kiss, which I think you and I could probably make some fanfic that would
Oh,
Blow that
yeah.
out of the water.
Because I feel like if this series had the possibility to be very spicy.
Oh, yeah. If this was an adult
Oh my
book,
gosh, yes.
many opportunities, many tropes offered that Yarla and I could easily be like, sex scene,
Yes.
another one, another one.
Mhm.
But it's all arm touches and kisses and waist touches. So we're gonna stick with that because that's what SJM provided.
We're gonna lock in
We're
the
gonna lock
beast
in.
within.
We're gonna
We're gonna just go with the flow, not have too high expectations.
I must lock up the beast.
The one who's into monster
Oh my
romance.
God.
Yeah, we're gonna lock that up.
Remember the two dicks from the two
green
cocks
ones?
from
Oh yeah.
from the Katie Robert book? No.
We gotta do the other ones.
Yeah.
The Kraken. I kind of want to read
midway through this. It'll be like we have to
Palate
get it
cleanse.
out. Like
I mean, I'm saying I'm gonna be
she's shifting around in herself.
I'm gonna be in restraints.
I'm a caged animal.
Ooh, that's too funny. For real though.
Oh my God.
I think that's
Is it
why
hot in here?
it's a little warm. But I think that's why I'm like, after I finished this Throne of Glass book, I immediately was like, I wanna stalk a romance right now.
You're like, if somebody doesn't put something somewhere and soon. Oh yeah. So we're really going through it.
We're needing like, is there something wrong with us where we need to have,
or is there something right with us?
Oh yes.
Listen, when you've been living in our world for as long as you have, it becomes rote. It becomes a pattern. You're expecting a certain level of things, and this is not what this series is for. So we have to just deal with that ourselves.
Yes.
Overall, I think that Kale really appeals to her more athletic, argumentative, like this combat kind of saucy, like swaggering side of her. I think their dynamic is more predicated on that. And I think Dorian appears or appeals to her more literary, intellectual. They have like spar of wits kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like he definitely is the polished like Renaissance man. And he appeals to that side of her because she's an assassin, she's violent, she wants to punch people. Like she very clearly has that side of her, but I think she's also a person who likes to read. She's in the library a lot. She likes to play the piano. She's, in some ways, I think she's sort of the like do it all girl. Like she's the like,
which is nice.
She's into everything.
Yeah.
So she's got these two sides of herself, and she can feel warmth with Kale in moments, and she feels this attraction to Dorian. So immediately we're kind of pulled in this like, who we gonna pick? Picking now. If the beast was out of the cage, we could say why choose, but we're not saying that. That's not what we're saying. That's not what we're gonna think about.
We can have both.
We're not in this world.
not in this one.
Or maybe, who knows? Maybe it does turn out.
Oh, interesting.
I can't be saying anyway that what turns out to happen, but it is YA. Remember that this is YA. So we have our romantic happenings. We also have our sort of her contestant life. Where there are several tests that she's put through. And what's really interesting about the way she talks about these tests, some of them she goes into detail. Sometimes she's just like, yeah, we did an archery thing. It was whatever.
Yeah.
There's knife throwing. There's scaling castle walls. There's tracking. There's knife wielding. There's all kinds of stuff. And just as Kale instructed her, she stays in the middle of the pack. But she hates it. In the process of the games, she makes both friends and enemies. She gets closer to two other contestants, one who is Nox. He's a thief and someone who's good at fighting, but you kind of don't know what his fighting history is, but he's pretty good in the competition. And Pelor, who excels at potions. And at various points, like she helps Nox, and then Nox helps her. Then Peller helps her in a potions challenge. So the three of them are kind of looking out for each other, and especially Nox. Selena and Nox really like hit it off and
Nice. Yeah.
help each other. She also makes an enemy out of Kane. Kane is big, broody soldier
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Uh, you're like, Suddenly Kane's seeming, he's giving something, no? Uh, well, Kane is a big burly soldier. He's also, you could tell, just mega violent, and his compass, there's not even like a north or a south. Like he
Yeah.
starts kind of violent and brutish, and he only gets worse throughout the games.
Yeah.
And what you discover is he's been meddling in some shit he shouldn't be, to get stronger, to get
Mm.
more capable. But he's and even like she runs into him at certain points. He's kind of feral looking, like, and not in a cute way, like in like a, what the fuck are
There's
you
something wrong
doing?
with
There's
him.
something up.
Yeah.
But what's important about Kane is, one, he's been dabbling, and we'll talk about that. And two, he figures out that she's not Lillian. He knows who she is, and he knows that she could be doing better at these competitions. He's like, I see you holding back. I know
Mm.
you could kick ass. I'm coming for you. And he's constantly like trying to
Yeah.
like zero in on her. And his interactions and his selfhood seems to get darker, more unhinged. He even gets physically bigger as things go on, and physically stronger.
Mm.
Uh, no, this is YA.
Yeah.
This is not.
I know what happens with him either way, but it's kind of a
Like a
sad.
girl can dream. In addition to romantic happenings and contestant happenings, there is also a friendship blossoming
Oh.
with a woman named Nehemia. Nehemia Yetger is the crown princess of Elway, and she has been in Otterland trying to establish a working relationship with Otterland so that they don't get invaded, and she wants to protect her people.
Yeah.
Even as some of her people are being captured and enslaved, she's trying to make sure that her country doesn't get overtaken. There are also rumors that she is one of the rebels with Elway, but it's not certain if that's true or not. You get inklings that some, maybe she's doing other things, but you never really figure that out totally. And Selena and Nehemia bond pretty immediately. I think their personalities they're similarly like strong personalities. And Nehemia asks Selena to help her learn the common tongue, which is what's spoken in Otterland. Selena also speaks Elway. So they talk in Elway a lot. And like other people are like, what are they saying? And they're like, mind your business. So they help each other. Like
Yeah.
Nehemia is helping Selena speak Elway. Selena's helping Nehemia speak the common tongue, and they build a friendship where they like go walking in the garden together, and they have their little chitty chats.
That's cute.
Yeah, they're like girly girls together, you know?
Yeah.
And so I want to stop here, because I think this book is really a study in the balance between what's happening on the competition level, what's happening sort of with the competitors, and what's happening interpersonally with Dorian, with Nehemia, and with Kale. How do you see the relationships that she's building with Kale and Dorian and Nehemia affecting Selena? Like, how do you think their relationships in some ways change her or shift her perspective in some way? And what do you notice about Selena's relational style and her interactions?
So, I mean, when you were describing how she starts to get to know Nehemia and all of that, she seems like almost like a little bit more open to it. But overall, she seems to be more of a guarded person and not wanting to connect much with others initially. And I'm assuming that that changes like maybe throughout the whole series and things like that. I mean, she does make maybe those connections within the trials just for backup or, kind of making those type of arrangements as needed.
Yeah.
But because of, like, her past issues, I'm sure she doesn't see it as anything that's gonna develop into anything deeper, at least not in the
Mm.
moment.
And I think she fights that. Even
Mhm.
toward the end of this book, she starts to consider if Kale or Dorian or Nehemia got hurt, how bad that would be. And then
Mhm.
she's kind of cursing herself. She's like, I don't recognize when this started to matter to me. But
Right.
there's sort of an aggravation that, like, damn it, they matter to me.
Yeah.
So I feel like she fights the warmth that she feels toward them, even as she can't help herself but to get closer in moments. And I think Kale, Dorian, and Nehemia are all pushing her to be warm, to connect, to engage, even just be humorous together. Like they're pushing her to sort of recognize her humanity, which
Yeah.
makes sense after a year in a labor camp
Yeah.
that you would be out of practice with that.
Right.
And I think she really ends up caring about them despite her best efforts, which is like, I think as counselors, we could see that coming a mile away. Like, we're like,
Mhm.
girl, at
Yeah.
least for me, I was like, girl, you're caring about these people. Like, don't kid yourself. Like,
Right, it's like when you have to make such an effort to hold back,
mm,
it's like, at some point, it's just you're gonna have to recognize that they mean something to you, and that's
mm,
okay, so
that's okay.
yeah.
And I think this highlights the connection that some people make between interpersonal connections as weakness. That
Right.
if I'm connected, or if I'm vulnerable with people, or if they're vulnerable with me, if I can be hurt by them being hurt, that's a weakness.
Right, or if I lose them, it's like
Mm,
you can't already go into a friendship thinking that you're gonna lose them because you're
yeah.
not gonna be like think that the relationship it will mean anything to you or
Mhm.
a precious relationship because you're always gonna be thinking about, oh, whenever they leave, that's not gonna
Mm.
form a deep connection.
Yeah, it's connections based in fear. And so
Mhm.
I think she has a lot of that where she's afraid and she's fearful for herself, for other people, but at some point she can't help but just have warm
Yeah,
relationships.
lean in.
Lean it and we're like I feel like you and I as the counselors we're like sitting here in our like comfy chairs. We're like, girl, lean in. She's like, I've been in a labor camp for a year. We're like, girl,
You
accept the
know,
relationships.
go with the vibe.
Establish the vibe, go with the vibe. Yeah, so we're in the middle of the competition, relationships are building, stuff is happening, and in the middle of the trials, on top of the danger of the trials themselves, spooky, scary shit starts happening. Namely, that contestants are getting murdered in the middle of the night. And not just like throat slit or I almost said like guns, but there's no guns
No
here.
guns
There's no
in this
guns in this
realm.
world and no guns in this realm. Uh, that should be our other t-shirt.
I'm writing it
Write this
down.
down. Write this down.
No guns in
In
this
this
realm.
realm.
This is amazing.
um But, not only are they getting murdered, they're getting absolutely maimed. And each one of these murders is similar in that their intestines, their torso has been torn open, their intestines removed, a hole put in their skull, and the brain taken out of the skull.
Eradicated.
Yeah. Finish her.
Oh my gosh.
That's a little video game
Love Mortal
reference.
Kombat.
I honestly, I've just seen like reels of it.
Really? You've never
Yeah,
played?
no, I've never played. I I love Minecraft
Oh,
and I
yeah.
love like Crash Bandicoot and I'm a little bit of a gentler experience,
Mm.
but Minecraft is in a first person point of view, so I am better now at things like Call of Duty, Halo, like when I get these sporadic opportunities to play, which is not often, but like if it's just happening around me,
Yeah.
I'll try it out. And I'm much better now than I used to be. I
Hmm.
used to just because I grew up with a brother and in a neighborhood of only boys.
That's
So it
funny.
was I either had to adapt or spend my days alone, and I was not gonna do that. So we would play Halo or Call of Duty, and I
Yeah.
would put my character in a corner with their gun, and then I'd be like, "Can someone come help me? I don't know what's going on." I kind of played
Oh, so
that
you were
card.
played
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. I'd be
Okay.
like, "I'm just a girl. I don't know what's happening." And then they would come to help me, and I would just spin and shoot.
Oh
And
my
you get to do
gosh.
that 1, 2 times, and then they know
No,
your
no, your
shit.
trick, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can only do that a couple times, and then they just while you're spinning toward the wall, they just come back behind you and stab you.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
so
They're like,
many
"You're done."
yeah, they're like, "And over." So yeah,
Mortal
anyway.
Kombat's really fun.
Okay, I'll have to try it. I think I'd like it better now than I did,
Oh yeah, it's
back then.
fun. It's
Okay.
just, you know.
Let's add that to the list. Mortal Kombat, Bridesmaids, Beetlejuice, Mortal
We're
Kombat.
catching up on a lot of things. Comment
Yeah.
down below your favorite Mortal Kombat
You only
character.
Fuck
I
her
like
kill.
Sub-Zero. He's cool.
Is that a character?
Yes.
Okay.
And then there's the guy with like the hat. I forgot his name. I think there's a guy called Kane too.
Girl, you're looking at me like I'm
No,
I'm
trying
gonna
to
give you
think.
the answer. I got nothing.
But I do like Sub-Zero.
Okay.
Write down
Shout
your
out-
favorite
Yeah.
character.
Comment your favorite Mortal Kombat character. And also, if you like Minecraft, hit me up. Let me know because I'm trying to play.
I've never played Minecraft.
Oh, girl, it's so fun. I could go off. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna,
a lot
but
of my
so good.
kids like Minecraft.
Yeah, it actually a lot of kids really enjoy it. So when they figure out that I can speak Minecraft speak, it's like they're like,
You're
"Oh
like
my
Chicken
God."
Jockey or whatever. I saw the
What?
movie.
Chicken Jockey.
Isn't that part of the Minecraft movie and the characters?
I mean, there are chickens in Minecraft.
Oh,
And there
okay.
are baby zombies that can ride chickens.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah,
I
the baby zombies are vicious. Don't let them fool you. They're quick and they'll kill you.
is that game only on PC?
No, you can. I play on a Nintendo Switch. I hook up.
Wait, let's take our Switches this weekend because I have.
You have a Switch?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh girl. Oh girl.
And I got some Mario games. Oh yeah.
Oh, it's popping off. We're
Yes.
going there. Okay. All right. Put that on the list.
Okay.
Anyway.
We're too excited for this weekend, guys. I'm sorry. We're just like
everything's exciting right now. So mid-trials, contestant starts getting murdered. And there are several things. Selena's like, I got to figure this out because I don't want to die.
Right.
And she starts investigating and she discovers several things that are somehow she's like, this is all connected in some weird way, but I can't figure it out. But she's trying to figure it out. First, we learn about the existence of what are called word marks. I've also heard them called weird marks.
I think they're a word.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that that's what the audiobook says because I hate the idea of calling it weird marks. I don't know why. No. It's just a thing in my head.
There's a book that I have. It's called Gods of the Wordwood. And it's spelled kind of like that
W-Y-R-D.
too. So it's
okay.
word.
Okay. Thank God. So there are word marks, which are basically these circle rune type symbols. At the scenes of some of these murders, sometimes it's painted in blood. And she starts noticing that there are word marks carved into various places in the castle. Specifically, there is an obsidian clock that chimes this very like weird and off-key or off-putting chime.
Yeah.
And Selena immediately clocks it. And a little clock humor.
That was a good one.
Thank you. She immediately sees the obsidian clock and goes, "What the fuck is that? And what is that noise?"
Yeah.
It's guarded by gargoyles. And all around it there are word marks.
That's cool.
Traced into the cobblestones. But she starts seeing them kind of everywhere. Whereas before, in like medieval castles and stuff, it's like you've got decorations all around. You're kind of not paying attention.
Right.
She starts being like, there's a word mark. There's a word mark. These are all over the place. What are these? The second thing that she discovers is that in her room, she's got several tapestries hanging on the walls. And behind one tapestry, there is a secret door.
Oh.
Which is open the door. And behind the door, there are several different passageways.
Ooh.
One leads to an escape sewer, which she puts in her little noggin and goes, this could be useful later. She considers escaping, and then she thinks through the whole thing, and she's like, that's not going to end well for me. If I just put in my time, I'll be free, and then I won't need to do that. And then one goes to a passage that is there's a grate overlooking the Great Hall. So she she can spy on people in the Great Hall from that passageway. And then the last one, perhaps the most important one to this book, leads to a tomb or mausoleum which houses Queen Elena Galathinius Haviliard, who is the daughter of Brannon, who was the first king of Terrasen. So, if you remember,
Yes.
Terrasen was one of the sort of what's
it's like the little
territories.
Yeah, territory.
Ooh,
yeah.
Really had to work hard for that word.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I was like island, location.
I didn't want to say continent because it's not that. One of the territories of the continent of Aurelia is Terrasen. Brannon was the first king of Terrasen, and then his daughter was the princess of Terrasen, but she marries King Gavin Haviliard, who is also in the tomb. So it's Elena, it's Gavin, and then there is a sword that was the sword of, I think originally it was either Gavin's sword or it was Brannon's sword, called Damaris. So Damaris is hanging there, Elena's there, Gavin's there, and it's interesting because there's this shaft of light that comes through this small hole that's been made like through the castle to shine into this tomb.
Yeah.
Once she discovers this tomb, Elena starts visiting both her dreams and coming to her while she's awake. Initially, Selena's like, are these just dreams? Am I just having nightmares? But what you find out is, she can visit Selena while she's awake. And then also in the dreams, like, it's not really a dream. She's here while you're sleeping and you're talking, but it's not a dream.
Yeah, like a ghost.
Yeah, it's somewhere between, it's, in like Enchantra.
Like apparition
or not Enchantra, Phantasma, where he can become corporeal or he can be invisible. She exists.
Because he's the phantom, so.
Yes, she exists somewhere between. She's not a ghost totally, but she's not fully corporeal. She's almost.
Is that
solid.
What you would call a phantom? We need the different
terminology. Well, interesting. We don't get that terminology. Weird. Moving on. So Elena keeps coming to her, and she says, and she's very adamant about this, you must rid the castle of this evil. There's an evil here. You need to rid the castle of it. Selena is like, do you have any details? How I might do that?
How should I go about it?
What are you talking about? And Elena is always like, I gotta go now. And she's like, I've been here too long. But one thing that Elena does help Selena with, Selena, is that little dynamic gets to me sometimes. But she gives Selena the Eye of Elena, which is this pendant or amulet that she can wear around her neck to protect her.
Yeah.
And she initially is like, this is stupid. I'm not wearing this. And then she last minute's like, I'll wear it. I don't want to get murdered. Like, if it's going to.
Just in case.
It's not going to hurt.
Yeah.
So she puts the Eye of Elena on. And then she starts looking into word marks, and she's going through all the books in the library, and she's trying to find information, but she can't read word marks. And so she finds a book full of word marks, and she's like, well, I don't know what to do with this. I need a codex of some kind, which she does not find. Simultaneous to this all these different happenings with Elena and Selena and everybody else, we are getting periodically the perspective of a woman at the court named Lady Caltaine. And her objective is to try and woo Dorian into a partnership, because she really wants, she wants Dorian because he's a hottie McTottie, but also she wants power. She wants to be influential. She wants to be powerful. Because Dorian and Selena have a little back and forth, she does not like Selena.
Yeah, because she's getting in her way.
She's getting in her way. She says, I'm clocking this bitch.
Yeah.
And I see what she's doing, and I want her gone.
Yeah.
And so you can hear, she has these little like scenes where you can see snippets into her mind. But she was brought to Rifthold. She got to Rifthold under the quote unquote generosity, big air quotes around this, of Duke Parrington, who is King of Otterland's right-hand man, number one creep of the realm, and also like not attractive. Like
Yeah.
attractive older man, unattractive older man. He's always described as like yellow-teethed, like red, like
Yeah.
crusty skin and stuff. It's like
Yeah.
he is clearly like inwardly and outwardly
Gross.
Like he gives very much unwashed ass vibes. Like he's not
like one of those like witch-like man, like
yeah.
who are just, you know,
He
like
He gives me
evil,
the
evil
heebie-jeebies.
yeah,
He gives me the heebs. I think he's meant to. Like from the start, you're
right.
never meant to feel anything but like ugh toward Duke
He's
Parrington.
gross, yeah.
And Caltaine feels that way toward him. She's like, ugh. But Caltaine's a schemer. She says, if he's gonna be the one to bring me here, I gotta put on a good face, and I gotta pretend like, one, I like Duke Parrington, and two, she kind of alludes to like, okay, maybe we'll get together. Like she's sort of he's lusting after her, and she's using that to be like, who knows, but like trying to ride this line between like chaste and
Right.
like seductress a little bit. In addition to staving off the advances of creep number one, she is also starts taking opium because she's getting increasingly worse headaches as the book goes on. And she gets these like zings of pain that go through her head as she's trying to manipulate or move through the court and keep Duke Parrington out of her skirts. And that becomes more and more difficult as she gets more and more in pain. I'm just going to let you know about all that, because at the end it becomes relevant about where she is at the end of this book. I didn't really know where to put her thing, so just
I'm definitely wondering, like,
put Caltaine in your head.
Yeah.
We're gonna see her again at the end of this book. She becomes relevant to the action of the end of the book. So as the trials are moving on, murders are happening more and more. These contestants are being found in hallways ripped apart, in bedrooms ripped apart. There are some interpersonal developments that impact the story. One is Nehemia at some point starts being really cold towards Selena. And Selena's worried about why. She doesn't know. She questions, did I do something? Is something wrong with Nehemia? Is Nehemia plotting something where she's going to hurt people? And so there's this rift between them, but Selena doesn't really understand why.
Yeah.
She also catches Nehemia like reading a book that has some word marks in it, and she goes, "What are you doing?" And Nehemia closes the book. She's like, "None of your business." And there's just like
sketch.
Yeah, it's just sketchy. It's sketchy shit's happening.
Yeah.
And so Selena is kind of watching out for Nehemia, going, "What are you up to?"
Right.
And she's hurt because Nehemia was her friend, and
here we go again of getting hurt, and
yeah,
maybe that might be affecting her trust. Yeah.
Bingo, bango, bongo. So things are weird between them, but they're kind of watching each other. And even when they're in disagreement, I think there's a pull for both of them to like make things right. But in this moment, it's not coming together. As this is happening, Dorian and Selena have some lukewarm romantic moments. I was going to say steamy hot moments, but it's not. YA. I need to like do a mantra, just YA every couple of minutes. They start up a little YA romance. Lots of kissing, lots of making out. In one scene, they even make out all night long.
Ooh.
There's nothing. Don't get it twisted. Nothing else happens.
Well,
just a full night of making out.
How does that not?
For hours they
like,
make out.
No.
For hours.
That's too much.
They make out. I'm just
something's
like,
gotta
their
happen
lips
after
were
that.
crusty at the end of that. Like they were just
nah.
Yeah.
I'll be like, where's this going?
Not them. They don't question it. They just say kissing. our favorite activity. And then they do that a lot. So
Gosh.
you enjoy that. um, but they start getting together. But one thing that's happening throughout the book is there's all these events and balls, and Selena's not allowed to go to them because she's too dangerous. People don't trust her.
That sucks.
Yeah, she sees other people going to the ball. She sees Knox going to the ball. She's like, everybody else and their
No, that's not
effing
nice.
mother are going to the ball, and I'm not allowed. So
I'm gonna show out.
she says, well, okay, and this cracked me the fuck up. She goes, so one, she thinks Nehemia might start hurting people at the ball because she doesn't know what's going on.
Okay.
Two, she just kind of wants to go to the ball.
Yeah.
And so she goes to her chambermaid, Philippa, and she's like, Philippa, help me sneak into this ball and like be incognito. And Philippa says, okay. And they proceed to put the most bejeweled, gorgeous gown flowing with silver beads like the beacon of the night sky.
That's
onto
incognito.
her body. Yeah. They coif her hair to a ridiculous, and she has this, I think it's like a long headpiece or something. It's ridiculous. And then they put a mask on her and they're like, no one will know who you are now.
Oh,
of course, you put the mask over your eyes.
No
You're
one
fine.
will know.
Wrong. Like immediately she arrives and she gets to the top of the staircase and everyone goes, oh, and
Who's
looks
that?
at, yeah.
Also, why the top of the staircase?
Couldn't come in a side door. Couldn't have snuck through the back. You're an assassin. See, these are the moments where I'm like, this is not assassin behavior.
Right.
This shit,
it's not lining
put
up.
on a mid-range gown. If you were actually going to do this
black,
right, put on a black gown
with a black mask,
a big ass mask,
maybe a wig.
Dye your hair, cut your hair, dye and cut your hair. Do something. Do anything other than put the most beautiful gown you've ever seen on. Coif your bright blonde hair for everyone to see and step through the main entrance steps of this ball. It's no surprise to anyone that everyone immediately knew who you were. Anyway, I got really passionate about that, but there were times where I was like, Selena, babe, you're an assassin. Yeah. You've been training as an assassin for 10 years. Do better. Be better.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think at this point, it's important to ask the question because we're like, now we're in it. We've seen her interact with Dorian and Kale.
Yes, yes.
And this is a very important psychological question that has a lot of applications to counseling. Team Kale or Team Dorian? What team are you on? Who do you want to see end up with her?
I feel like I like Kale more.
Okay, please do tell.
I feel like Dorian hasn't stood out to me much. And then Kale, I feel like seems to be there more for her and cares more for her. I'm sure more than a trainer / friend. So I can see how I like his way of going about things.
You like his vibe, so you think he's endgame?
Right now, yes.
Okay. All right, good to know.
I don't know, because then I am for Kale, but I think Dorian, like may try to swoop her up.
Oh, okay. Well, Kale did give her an amethyst ring, so get a little present from it. But Dorian did give her a puppy. They're both giving her gifts. It's a back and forth.
Interesting.
You're trying to look at my face.
I'll take
for
a
answers.
ring over a puppy, I think.
Yeah, you think ring trumps puppy?
Yeah. Okay. Do you have one or you can't say?
I mean, do you want me to tell you what I thought the first time I read it at this point?
Yes.
I Team Kale.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the rugged. I'm a little bit more of the rugged whatever.
Same.
But I want to be clear to our listeners at that's first time reading at this point what I was thinking.
Yes. Interesting.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see who wins out in the end. Ooh. Okay, now that we got that really important question completed. So this is where things really start ramping up. Post Yule Miss Ball. That's the ball.
Also, like, really? Harry Potter, the Yule Ball?
Yeah. Well, it's very so, and this is not giving things away, but I think if you pay attention, there is a lot of Celtic lore that comes up and a lot of pagan lore.
Yeah.
Yule is just the pagan Christmas.
Yeah.
That's what the pagans used to celebrate when the Christians came in and were like,
We are calling
this
it a
is
Christmas.
yeah. They were like, and we'll put it already on your holiday, and we'll take it over.
Yeah.
So
But
just remember
I
that.
love when books have like the Yule Ball or like Yule Miss. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll miss.
I like it.
Oh yeah, me too. So after the Yule Miss ball, things start intensifying. Selena finds word marks under her bed, and she keeps trying to wash them away. She's like, I don't want you bringing bullshit down on my head and
Yeah.
people getting murdered. Then she goes down the secret passageway again, down to because she senses some shit or she hears some shit. And who should be in Elena's tomb but Cain?
Ooh.
Cain is there looking crazy as fuck. And he is summoning what we learn is called a Ritterak. A Ritterak is evil, bad demon, gray, gross, emaciated, elbows turned the wrong way.
Ooh.
Creepy-tastic, scary
I like that.
thing. You're like, is the Ritterak available?
When is he coming around?
Yeah. So when does the Ritterak come back?
What are his
What's his vibe? What's his thing? No, it's like these like long, big teeth and like black eyes and like terrifying creature, and he's summoning this.
Yeah.
And Cain and Elena or Selena's like, I shouldn't be here. And then Cain turns around and is like,
he sees her.
Yeah. He's like, yo, what up? And Six, the Ritterak on her, is like, get her.
Yeah.
He's like, this will actually help me out because then I don't have to murder you later. I could just murder you now. And so she escapes. Just like the Ritterak bites her, but she manages to escape. She stumbles up to her room, but things are not right because she's been bitten by this creature. And who should be there but Nehemiah? Nehemiah shows up, saves her, heals her. Very interesting. And they have a little bit of a conversation that kind of clears a little bit up, but they don't totally go into it. Like, Selena gets the vibe, like, I don't think Nehemiah is trying to do the wrong thing. I think she's trying to help in some way. She's involved in some way, but she's trying to help.
Yeah.
But it's clear that Nehemiah potentially is using some kind of, I don't know if it's magic or power or whatever, but magic's a no-no in Otterland. So Selena's like, I don't know how you're doing what the fuck you're doing, but you're going to get in trouble if you don't stop that shit.
Yeah.
And that event kicks off the series of the final events of the book. And we're sort of like tumbling at this point into some of the final things.
Yeah.
So in the final test, there's basically it's like a bracket. So Cain and Selena both have to fight one other person. Once they fight, then whoever wins those two fights fights each other.
Right.
Everybody knows Cain and Selena are ass kickers.
Yeah, the strongest ones.
Yeah, they're the big baddies.
Yeah.
So they both fight their respective people and win. Then they go to fight each other. Right before they fight, Caltaine rolls up with a tray that has a couple of goblets of wine on it. And earlier that day, Duke Parrington came over to Caltaine and said, hey girl, I'm going to need you to take one of these vials. I need you to put it in Selena's cup. Because Cain's winning. Selena's going down. You're going to help me think about all the power we could have.
Right.
Caltaine says, well, Caltaine's having headaches and shit. Also, she's kind of half out of it.
She's not feeling well.
She's not feeling great, but and she's, let's be clear, high on opiates.
Yeah.
She takes opium. That's what she's taking this whole time to deal with the headaches, but she's high. And so she goes, I want power. I've been, manipulating Duke Parrington the whole time. This is the moment for me.
Yeah.
So she slips a little something, a little belladonna, a little something into somebody's cup. And then she goes up to the contestants, Cain and Selena, and she's like, a toast to the final fight. Here.
I feel like I would already know. No thanks.
Well, it's the ceremonial wine cup. And at this point, if you think about it, Selena's interacted with Caltaine here and there. She doesn't like her. And she's like, this girl's catty. But she's not thinking about Caltaine. Like, she's off on her own. So And if I feel like this is where the movie we like watch in slow motion as Selena's hand takes the cup,
Yep.
she downs the whole fucking thing. I'm like, you couldn't just take a sip. You just had to go.
Wow, she was thirsty, I guess.
And also,
All
you're
that
drinking
fighting.
wine before a fight. Like, seems
Yeah.
like not a great idea. But hindsight's 2020. You know,
Yeah.
whatever.
And I feel like back then all they did was drink wine.
And sometimes
like,
it was the only thing you
yeah,
could drink.
never drink water.
No, that was
Like if you watch like Game of Thrones
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff, they're never drinking water.
we
They're
don't drink
just-
the water.
They drink wine
Yeah, we
all
don't.
the time.
Yeah, we don't hydrate. We dehydrate. So she drinks it. They get in the ring. She's like, okay, we got this. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna kick his ass. And then she starts to get all woozily. She gets a little nauseous. Things are getting blurry. And she starts to like partially hallucinate. And I'm gonna put big air quotes around the word hallucinate.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is the belladonna is opening up kind of her vision to not only what's happening physically, but what's happening behind the veil. And behind the veil is where Elena is. Behind the veil is where apparently all of these demons or Ritterak are. And now she starts to see what's going on, and she sees all of these demons and Ritterak flying around. She gets her face pressed up against that obsidian clock, and the Ritterak and the demons are all flowing through inside that clock. And Cain can see them because he's been meddling in this.
Right.
And no one else can. So Cain knows. He's like, I'm not just murdering her. I'm like fucking her up. Yeah. Behind the veil, on this side of the veil, she can see them. But to everybody else, nobody else can see what's happening here. Like, they're all looking at her writhing on the ground, and they're like, what is wrong with you? And then both Kale and Dorian kind of realize what is happening, that she has been messed with in some way or poisoned.
Yeah.
So she is trying to fight. It's not working. Cain's kicking her ass. Nehemia, and there's one part that I think is really important where Kale gets right outside of the ring. The thing is, if they get thrown out of the ring, they lose. So his hand is like right outside the chalk mark out of the ring. Her hand is like on the other side of the little chalk mark. And he's like, get up, get up, get up.
Yeah.
And that's like the encouragement she needs to keep fighting. And then Nehemia comes in because apparently she can somehow sense what's happening. And she starts moving her hands around in the air in an interesting way. Picture some Doctor Strange shit.
I love it.
Some like moving of the hands stuff. And what ends up happening is she starts doing word marks with her hand, calls in Elena, and Elena and Nehemia together beat back the Ritterak or the demons.
Yeah.
And Elena kind of holds Selena's face and is like, I can take away the poison, but you got to help us. You got to kill Cain. We can hold back the Ritterak, the demons, but you need to take care of Cain. He's the one calling in all these things. You need to take care of him. So Selena ultimately subdues Cain, doesn't kill him, subdues him because Nehemia and Elena took care of the other veil stuff. And the fight ends. She's declared the winner, and she slumps on the ground because like all her shit's broken. It's like she's fucked up. And Dorian comes over her and it's like, oh my god, are you okay? He's like, get a healer. He's like trying to help her. And Kale's standing behind them, and he sees Cain rise up and go to kill Selena. And so Kale runs him through with his sword. He kills Cain. Cain dies.
Yeah.
Demons. Nehemia faints. Selena faints. Everybody's fainted. After these events, there seems to be a lot of guilt that flies around. Guilt from Kale for killing Cain, and from Dorian for not helping Selena throughout this fight. Like, obviously something's wrong, and he's like, I should be helping her, but I can't because of my father and all these different things. And then Selena feels guilty for thinking badly of Nehemia, and Nehemia feels guilty. So there's really, it's like this intense event happens, and then all this guilt sort of spills out from everyone about various things, either that they've done or haven't done, stuff like that. how do you see the intensity of an event, like, or a potential trauma connected with guilt, both for these characters, but, like, how do we see guilt and trauma interacting together in real world spaces?
Yeah. I think when it comes to, like, the events in this book, I think guilt that Kale feels is obviously because of the difficulty that it is to cope with killing someone that, he didn't plan to do. I'm sure there were some type of repercussions after or things like that, but I believe that feeling of guilt will come up for anyone, like,
Mm,
fantasy or real world. Um it will come up for anyone who does that kind of action,
mm.
unless you're a serial killer who has no empathy.
Oh, you're
Um
like, if you've read a serial killer romance lately, to bring it back to serial killers.
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
like you are gonna feel guilty and maybe an array of emotions because of something that you did with a heightened emotion, and then now you gotta deal with the repercussions or whatever
Yeah.
feelings come up with that. So it's
I think too, sometimes there's emotion after an intense event, emotion can just kind of bleed out
yeah.
and in weird ways.
Yeah.
I've run into folks who something intense happens and there's really nothing for them to feel guilty about, but they're like, I just feel bad. And so it
Yeah.
sort of manifests as guilt.
Mm.
There's also things like survivor's guilt and other things.
Yeah.
It's this, I think the body is dysregulated, the mind is dysregulated, and humans are meaning makers. And so we're trying to make meaning of why do I feel bad? And so
Yep.
it really kind of
Yeah.
emerges as guilt.
Even, like, when, like, you lose a friendship or something, you kinda
Mm,
drift apart in a friendship, you almost feel guilty or just as you start to process that of, like, "Why did this happen?" or "How did we get here?" type of thing, and just maybe feeling guilty
yeah.
of how everything turned out, but yeah,
And
and
it's so interesting that you say that. It's almost like guilt as control. Like, if I
yeah,
could have just done something
yeah,
differently, if I could have done something differently. And
yeah,
sometimes the reality is you couldn't have, and it was
yeah,
out of your control, and that's really hard to contend with sometimes, that, like,
yeah,
bad things just happen and you weren't in control and there was nothing you could have done differently,
yeah.
which is, like, really
And nothing you
hard.
can do now.
Y
It's just kind of
yes.
like process it, accept kind of like where we're at with the situation,
Mhm.
maybe learn a few things of like how you may want to handle the next type of relationships and you kind of move on your own.
Mm. And I think counseling is a really great space for helping people, one, for believing people in their experience,
Yeah.
and then for helping people to have all the emotions that they're gonna have without judgment.
Right.
The guilt, it is normalized. The all that stuff is normalized, and we help folks move away from things like victim blaming or
Mhm.
trying to own things that are not ours to own.
Yeah.
It's being able to recognize when we didn't have control over something, and
Yeah.
then I like what you said about, and now we get to have control over how we process, how we heal, that
Mhm.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, we are, like, almost through our plots and thoughts, but I think it might be a good time for a break.
Yeah.
When we come back, I sort of have, like, here's how everything pans out in the end of this story. Have a little bit of a question for you, interestingly, around Lady Caltaine, which I think, will be a good little convo, and then we'll move into our teehee moments and our therapy deep dive and your unhinged thoughts and theories for the
Yeah. Let's
future.
see.
Sound good? All
Yes.
right. Bye. All right. So we are back from the break and we are ready to complete our plots and thoughts analysis.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. So last we left off, Selena wins. She subdues Kane. Kane tries to murder her. Kale's like, no, runs him through.
Yeah.
Everybody's emotional, which we talked about. The guilt, the emotions, the traumas, it's all happening. But then as the book winds down, so does everybody else.
Mhm.
Everybody's kind of trying to sort through their relationships and what's happening toward the end of the book. So there's a couple of things that I want to highlight. One is that Selena, so she wins, but there's a little bit of a gap between when she wins the competition and when she's formally offered the contract from the
Mm.
king. And he kind of like holds it over her head for a second. Like he's like, you haven't signed a contract yet, bitch. And I'm like, I'm coming for you, King of Aderlin.
Yeah.
But ultimately he offers the contract. Again, does it in like a super smarmy power way where he's like, aren't you grateful to me? And she's like, yes, I'm so grateful.
Like, what's wrong with him?
That's a great question. I don't know. He's a power hungry person.
Mm.
We didn't know where that was going for a second, but I chose the less violence.
Right.
YA. That's why.
YA. We're choosing the
Cut to
YA.
us saying like fuck shit. Like it's just like we choose our moments.
Yeah.
So they agree to the 4 years of service. As a result of winning, she signs the contract. She begins. In addition to the contract work, she has finally kind of the conversation that she and Nehemiah have needed to have ever since things got weird between them. And what they discover is they've both been keeping secrets from each other, which, I mean, they have their reasons. Nehemiah has her own country to protect.
Right.
Selena, as we discussed, is going through a lot of trauma, has been betrayed. Like, they each have compelling reasons for not revealing things to each other. But what we find out is that Nehemiah knows how to read word marks. And that ability is something that has been passed down in her family specifically. They've kind of been the protectors of the knowledge of the word marks.
Okay.
And she's been using word marks to protect Selena.
Aww.
Remember when Selena had those word marks under her bed? And she was like, oh my God, someone's going to stick me with these.
Yeah, because she thought it was like a hex or something.
Yeah, Nehemiah's like trying to protect her. Every day she's washing away the symbols.
Well, could that have been a moment to educate and communicate? Yeah.
Possibly. That would be. So you don't tell anybody what you're doing. And that's why you have to redraw the word marks every day, because
doing extra work for no reason.
Yeah. And Selena has a bit of guilt about being suspicious of Nehemiah when she's been trying to protect her this whole time.
Yeah.
It's also clear that using the word marks or operating in word marks takes energy. So she's been sort of working day and night to stem this evil, protect Selena. And so she's tuckered out. Like, she's been real tired.
Yeah.
And I get that too. Like, you are putting so much of your energy in that I get you're not in your total like right mind to have a conversation.
Right.
But in the end, both of them agree, like, we've been silly. We need to start communicating more.
Yeah.
There's like a promise of like not keeping secrets from each other.
Love that.
Yeah. Like, we're just going to communicate. We're on each other's team. I'm your girl. You're my girl. Like, we're here and
together.
Girl power. In addition to what she finds out from Nehemiah about word marks, it's also clear that the king suspects something about what all happened at the final duel. He sees it all goes down.
Right.
Nehemiah is standing outside the circles making hand gestures, and Selena's writhing on the ground. And in addition to that writhing on the ground and all that crazy stuff, she also has a word mark burned sort of into her forehead. It doesn't, and I don't mean burn as in you can see it all the time. I mean when it appears, exactly. When all this stuff is happening and the veil is thin, that word mark flashes on her forehead. The king sees it and clocks it and is like, what is that? What is that doing there? Does she know what it's doing there? What is she doing? Who is
possible
this?
power?
What? Yeah, like he's a schemer, and so he's already thinking about it. And he also, we find out, is very much in cahoots with Duke Parrington. Duke Parrington, this whole time, Kaltane, we've seen from her perspective that Duke Parrington is this schemy, like, smarmy dude. And in her head, she's been like, I'm manipulating him. I got him to bring me here. I'm kind of leading him along on a string to keep him, help him keep me here. But what you discover at the very end, and what happens to Caltaine at the very end, is that Duke Parrington betrays her. And he says, he basically, someone's like, well, there's been poison added to this cup, or actually it's Caltaine who kind of gives herself away. She's like, I don't
Mm.
understand, and she's on opiates, remember? So she
Right.
should be shutting the fuck up.
Yeah.
But she doesn't. She's so flabbergasted that Selena won anyway. This was not the plan. So she starts talking, and she's like, but the poison, da da da. And Duke Parrington spins the narrative because he helped her with that. He told her to poison the cup. He's the one that provided the poison. I'm just thinking of like Cusco's poison, the poison for Cusco.
I love that movie.
Cusco's poison. So he provides Cusco's poison, and Caltaine starts being like, no, you helped me with this. You're in cahoots with me. And Duke Parrington in front of everybody is like, clearly this young woman has committed a crime.
She's
and is
deranged.
Unwell. Exactly. She's like a crazy woman
Yeah.
who schemed and tried to kill someone.
Wow.
This cannot stand. And she's staring at him like, no, we were in this together. We both did this. You did this. But she starts looking like the crazy woman. And so, and I say that way because it's that trope of like the insane woman. And he's the noble who's like, this crazy woman is just attacked our contestant. She must be punished. And it's a big betrayal. And Caltaine's like, what do you mean? And so she gets taken away to the dungeons and thrown in the dungeons at the very end of this. And before I get to our last plot point here, I did have a question because I think Caltaine is an interesting perspective, like an interesting choice of a perspective.
Right.
You have Dorian and Kale and Selena who are all integral to the story. Then you kind of have Caltaine that's like what's her role in all this?
Yeah.
And so what you know about Caltaine is that she's very smart, she's conniving, she's very aware of where the power in the room is and how to kind of talk to sort of put a little worm in somebody's ear to be like, oh, well, I saw Dorian talking to this person.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say it to the right person at the right time so that it weasels its way where I need it to go. So she's always calculating. And the thing she's calculating for is to gain power. She wants power and influence, not only in general, but specifically through a relationship with Dorian. Now, as I've mentioned, she starts really, once she starts getting these headaches and taking opiates, her ability to maneuver starts getting
a little
hinky.
wonky.
Yeah, like she's still trying. And I would say like she's pushing through a lot of like mental confusion and pain to pretend to still be okay. But I think at the very end, it all kind of comes off the rails.
Yeah.
But if you were to examine her like psychologically and her the way she approaches the world or what ends up happening to her, why do you think power is so important to her, given the setting of the world and of the social structure of Aderlin?
Yeah.
And then how does the pursuit of power or control impact her or in some ways lead to her demise?
So I can assume that power can make anyone feel more important, right? And when there is only this one guy who you gotta pursue and marry, and to get to that power, there are limited spots pretty much. So you being able to be that girl who gets the guy and becomes the queen or whatever the situation is, like that's kind of the only option to get to that power. So it also seems like she's trying to like prove her status or wanting more attention from others, like clearly trying to stand out for Dorian. And she's obviously also struggling with something due to like her headaches. Like, what is that? I would recommend her to go get medically tested with her doctor.
Go to your PCP, Caltane, babe. Go to your PCP, see what this is about.
Yeah, so I was definitely like wondering what the headaches are, and because I would assume if you're having these like really painful headaches all the time, like that wouldn't be okay.
Yeah.
Do you have some type of illness, some type of diagnosis? And then having to rely on opiates is not a great thing either, because then you're developing an addiction. So yeah, I think she's going through a lot and trying to do a lot and persevere, but it doesn't seem like it's working out too great for her.
Yeah, I like that you highlight the opportunities she has for power.
Mm-hmm.
I think that speaks to some of the sexism that exists in this world. It's this weird thing of, where do women have power? And in this realm, at least, women only have power. And I don't mean like in Eoway and Terrason and other places, like we don't know what their power structure, but in Adderlin specifically, it seems as though women only get power when they are in relationship to men. So
yeah, a lot of the court life is like that,
Exactly. And so I like that you highlight that there's not many opportunities for her to gain power outside of a marriage to a man.
Yeah.
And so obviously it would be connected. Her desire for power would be connected to a man.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, like, because she doesn't know very much about Dorian at all. They don't, when they interact, because Dorian doesn't like her. Both Kale and Dorian, because I think they see her games. They see that she's
kind
one
of
of those
mean
court
girl,
ladies. She's trying to simper to them and whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think if you look at, like, they're not having a lot of warm interactions. It's not like she's getting the message that Dorian actually cares about her.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't. And I don't think she knows that much about him outside of being the prince.
No, probably not.
It really is, like, for her, a power move.
Yeah.
And what she recognizes within the system is that in this court life, women only have power when they're in relationship with men, and that court life is about power. Everyone is searching. She's not the only woman who's kind of fawning over Dorian and Kale.
They're all out in the gardens trying to just have him look at them.
Dude, yeah. That's literally, like, she's not the only one doing this. She, I think, is just a little bit more
out there,
calculating or like ruthless in the way that she does it. So it's interesting to see her push against these systems that say, okay, you need to be powerful. You need to find power, and you need to do it through relationship to men.
Yeah.
And so she's single-minded in that. And I think what is so interesting about her trajectory and kind of where she ends up is that her pursuit of power, her attempt at power is through men, and her downfall is men. It's like through Duke Parrington, and she is betrayed by the very men in power that she seeks to get the influence or approval of. And that just feels icky to me,
Yeah. So I hope to see what happens with her.
Well, and I mean, she's in the dungeons now.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Like, what will happen? Maybe something later.
I don't know. I know nothing. And I'm not looking at you, and I'm not making any kind of faces. So Caltane gets taken away to the dungeons, and I will be honest too, there's a part of that, like, I don't think she's a totally innocent party either. I think she has ruthless tendencies, she has conniving tendencies. And there's parts of me that are really annoyed by her. And so I think in some way there's this mix of, like, just desserts, like, you've been conniving and shifting through the worlds and whatever, and you've played your hand badly, and you got played, and you've been playing the game. And then also a young woman trying to have power, clearly having a substance use problem, like, all of that pulls that empathy for me too.
That's true.
So that happens, and then at the very end of the book, Selena goes to Dorian, and now she's signed the contract. She is Adderlin's assassin, and she is about to start doing killing contracts for the king. And she goes to Dorian and says, we can't be together. You're the prince. Like, they've been making out and touching hands and whatnot. They've been relating in only the way you can in YA, fantasy. And she goes to him and she says, we can't be together. Like,
Yeah.
you are the prince to be king. And she tries to have that conversation and say, you have responsibilities to your role. And he's kind of trying to be like, oh, who cares about that? And she's kind of like, you should. You are the future king. You have
Right.
you have
She has more
power.
common sense in this time.
Honestly, it's she's kind of she's calling him in a little bit. Not, I don't think, in a huge way, but saying you have responsibilities to your role. You're going to be the guy in power. You have to think about that.
Right.
And I'm an assassin, and in 4 years' time, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I'm
And
not
she
the
makes
girl for
that
you.
clear. Yeah, she's like, I'm not sticking around for you.
Yeah.
She and at the very end, her thing is like, I will be free, and that freedom is so important to her.
Yeah,
The
of
ability,
course.
and she talks about, and then I'm gonna leave, and I'm gonna go to some other place where nobody owns me. Because if you think about it, when you're training under Arabin Hamel, you're not totally free,
Right?
Because you're training to be assassin. When you're in Endivere, you're not, like, she has not tasted.
Yeah.
True, I get to do exactly what I want, freedom,
Yeah.
in a long time. So she's very clear. She's like, at the end of this, I leave.
You
Cannot.
It reminds me of the War of Lost Hearts. Like that,
Serious.
like slave wanting freedom and all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It feels very like that Tasana, struggle for, when am I not going to be owned by somebody or contracted for somebody or
that was a good series. And, it started off a little like, I'm not too sure how I like it, but then it ended up 5 stars.
And as usual, I was in it the whole time. I feel like if you did a compilation of our star ratings, mine would just be like 5 stars. 5 stars. Loved it. I'm a simp.
But
and you're like discerning. You're like, there's literary reasons that I'm like, simp. I'm a simp.
You're like, I'm just here for the vibe.
I'm here for the vibe. The vibe was good. That's all I got.
So I feel like this series will be similar to War of Lost Hearts for me, where it's like it started off a little not too sure if I like it that much, and I ended up loving it.
Okay. I'm here for the journey. Whatever ends up happening, I'm here for the journey. So those are our plots and thoughts analysis. We're now going to move into our teehee moments, and then we're going to do our therapy deep dive, where we're going to highlight some things we saw in the book and talk about the therapy space. But first, the abundant teehee moments. So many.
I ran out of space writing them all down.
Listen, buckle up, everybody, because we've got 50. No, we don't. We do not. We really had to scrape and think and really dig for those teehees, mostly because I think what would usually register on our teehee scale was not present. So I almost feel like I had to go back to my high school self for a second and be like, what would I have teeheed about as a freshman?
Right.
And go from there. And I did identify a couple. So we're going to go through it. But what were your teehee moments, Yarlin?
So I have 2.
Okay. Get it, girl.
One from Dorian and one from Kale.
Oh.
So let me say my Dorian one first.
Okay.
He said, I knew you'd win the moment I met you. I'm grateful to have brought you into my life.
Oh, that's very cute.
I thought that was cute.
And a good little confidence boost. I knew when I met you that you were going to kick ass. And that's saying a lot, because she was not doing well when they met. She was emaciated. She was covered in dirt. She was
a little
rough.
Yeah.
But he saw something in her, and I love that.
And my next one is from Kale, which is a hugging scene at the end of the book.
Ooh, they're hugging.
So I think this was her kind of either POV or something. She said she couldn't tell where he ended and where she began. Stay there forever and let the world fall apart around them. Something along those lines. But I loved that one.
Oh yeah. I feel like when you get a really good hug, just the kind that's like, this is for emotional security hug. It's like emotionally and mentally we're in it. That just seems like that was the kind of hug. And then Dorian walked in. It was a little dicey.
Yeah. So, and then I had another one, but I'll mention because it was one that I saw that you wrote down, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
want you to say your
Oh,
two
you want me to bring it up and then you can
Yeah.
comment on it? Okay.
Yes.
So I did have a couple here, and again, I really had to dig deep, really had to go to a different place mentally, because usually, and I don't know if this is like this for you, I've gotten to the point now with these romantasy books, like making out almost doesn't register, unless there's something behind the kiss, if you say it in a certain way,
Right.
but just kissing, I'm like, that's
All
like,
right.
kissing is the new hand holding. Hand
Yeah.
holding is nothing.
Mhm.
I don't know what the scale would be after that, but like it's really shifted my perspective on the
Yeah.
like spiciness of things. So I really had to scale it back and be
Go
like,
into your inner child.
exactly. I had to go back to freshman year Katie, nose in a book. I'm
Yeah.
reading. I don't know if you ever read the Marked series. It was about witches.
No,
There
but
was
I've
a
seen
bunch
it
of 'em.
before.
I go back to Marked. I had to
Mhm.
recede back into like, where was I? What was I reading at that point?
Okay.
Or The Uglies. Did you ever read The Uglies?
No.
Oh, okay. There's a whole we could do a whole thing on this too. Like
Yeah.
YA,
Nostalgia
yeah, nostalgic
books.
fantasy, kind of those books walked so that all of these books could
Right.
run, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Anyway, I was very into all of that. So the first one I have is not a particular line, but it's a scene where Selena's trying to learn how to do pool, and she's not good at it because she's never played pool. And she's getting all like pissed. This was another moment I was like, girl, relax. She was literally like screaming. She's like, I wanted to break the thing across my knee. I'm like,
Okay.
chill,
You know,
chill, chill, chill.
let's just bring it down a bit.
Chili vanilli. This is not, you got other fish to fry, babe. But she was getting frustrated. And Dorian, being Dorian, was like, do you want some help? And she was like, no, I can do it. And he's like, please, just will you let me help you? And he does that thing where he like wraps his arms around her and like shows her. And she did have this moment where she was like, less feeling, more instructing. Like he definitely gets into like holding her arms and whatever. So that gave me a little stir. My 15-year-old self got a stir up from that. And then there was one point where, because Dorian starts bringing her different presents like candy and cake and all this stuff, and
weird.
She's very materialistic. She loves it. She goes shopping. She loves her finery, which we can get behind. And she said he walks in, and I think he said he was going to bring her a present or something. She said, "Are you my present, or is there something in that basket at your feet?" So he's got something for her, and he replies, "If you'd like to unwrap me," he said, lifting a large wicker basket onto the table. "We still have an hour until the temple service."
Now that one.
And I said, Dorian, okay.
Now that one I liked. I said, I must have missed that one.
How'd you miss it, girl?
I don't know. That's a spicy one.
He let the suave out a little bit, and I was like, Dorian, okay. All right, Dorian. So I really liked when he was like, unwrap me, and I was like, yeah, well, all right. And then this one I take totally out of context. I'm not even going to tell you the context, but there's a line here that I was like, if this was in a different book in a different context and said in a special way, it could be spicy. So I'm literally digging. I'm like under the earth, just being like, whatever I can find. Selena at one point says, "Then you must have been a very naughty boy." And I was like, ooh,
that could have been
said
something
that way.
Yeah.
And she was teasing one of them, but it was in her head, it was not spicy, and in no one else's head it was. But I was like, I'm including it. I'm including it.
Yeah.
Then there's one where Dorian goes to kiss her, and it says, "Dorian approached her slowly, halting only a hand's breadth away, and braced an arm against the wall beside her head."
Oh yeah, I could picture it.
And I'm like, okay, he's getting a little
close.
He's getting close. He's getting a little controlling. He's like, oh, I'm like, you could grab her wrists with your hand. See, that would be the spicy.
Yeah, we're not there.
He doesn't do that. He doesn't even touch her. He just leans. But
it's the yearning, I guess.
We're like trying to manufacture. We're like, come on. And then Sorry, that took me. And then the last one is his arm slipped around her waist and he held her tightly to him as his lips moved against hers. She put a hand on his shoulder. Ooh, her fingers digging into the muscle that lay beneath. One, the waist grab and the pull
Yeah, I
in,
like that.
I can get into. Number two, they're kissing one of the few times. And she feels a muscle underneath the clothes. I'm like, that's
touch and feel moment.
yeah. An over the clothes, non-genitalia related touch moment that could be maybe sensual for somebody. So those were my teehees.
They were nice. I think they were nice.
Yeah, they were like
starters.
Yeah, they were like a little amuse bouche, a little appetizer.
Yeah.
And who knows what will happen in the future books in terms of spice, but
who knows?
I don't. And I'm still not looking at you. That's one of the things too I feel about counselor life. Counselors can like read facial expressions so closely. So I can't give anything away, dude. I can't look you in the eyes because you'll see shit in my eyes.
Yeah, I'll be able to read you from over
Honestly,
here.
I will tell you this. If you have a counselor in your life, like they got reading people powers. Don't underestimate us.
I know.
We out here seeing things.
I try not to psychoanalyze my friends, but
me too. And but I think it's less the psychoanalysis part, it's the noticing. Like
we're very observant.
Notice things.
Yeah.
And it's not on purpose, but you're just like, oh, that was a weird moment. And like it goes totally unnoticed by everyone else, but you are I'm tracking, I'm like seeing these things happen and it's almost unconscious. I'm like,
we can tell like when there's awkward moments happening to other people or something.
Vibes off.
Yeah.
When somebody's off. They're like, it's like there's just an awareness that it's hard to put that down. Because it just kind of becomes a part of the way you
what we do.
But it makes acting in this circumstance where I have to pretend difficult. a little bit tough, and
Oscar nominated.
Girl, you don't even know today what I've done. You have no clue what I've done today.
Yeah,
we almost need to like after this is all over, go back and be like, hear this part right here, acting. Hear this part right here, acting.
We'll revisit when we're done with.
We'll do a little review anyway. So. Now we are going to go into our therapy mind deep dive. And this is where we take some things that happen in the book and we really cast it out to the real world. I know in the plots and thoughts, we really stick pretty, we try to incorporate the characters themselves and their psyches. Now this is the application part. What can you take from this, or what do we as counselors take from this for the everyday world? And the first one I have is something that crops up for Selena a number of times across the book. It's this mantra that she repeats to herself when she is particularly scared or nervous or unsure of herself. And she says, I will not be afraid. I will not be afraid. And she says it, and in a lot of times it grounds her. She's like, this is where I find my courage. And there's a lot, I think, on Therapy Talk or Therapygram about mantras. And I'm of two minds about it because I think there are some myths out there about what mantras do and what they are. And then it can be a great tool. So what kind of myths or misnomers exist when people talk about mantras as a mental health tool? And then what can mantras do for folks in our mental health toolbox?
So I can speak first on like how it can help individuals. And I feel like it is pretty helpful when you're also going to therapy and like learning about it versus just grabbing this information from the internet and not really knowing how to do it or feeling overwhelmed. Like you need kind of maybe a little bit of the coaching or the education that you learn when you come to see a therapist about it.
Yep.
So I love to recommend like positive affirmations and like those type of mantras like we see in this book and things like that. Because I feel like it's something that I recommend for all of the ages, right?
Sure.
So, it helps build self-esteem and confidence in clients, especially because I see younger kids too, and
Mhm.
being able to work on that at that age is so impactful for the rest of their lives.
Mm.
As well as adults, maybe like learning how to improve their self-esteem and their confidence by using positive affirmations and things
Sure.
like that. Um, so and one that I can think of that is similar to like the mantra in this book was when Violet in Fourth Wing would say, "I will not die today." So she would say
Yeah.
that all the time.
Mhm.
But that is some of the positive parts of it. And
Mm.
then I would say like myths. Um, I guess it would just depend on like how connected you are to that mantra.
Mm.
Was it a mantra that you came up with yourself or connected with it, or was it just a mantra that you just saw on the internet and want to apply it to yourself type of thing?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest, I don't even know if it's a myth, but it's a misunderstanding about mantras. I think
Mm.
it starts leaning into that manifestation
Oh, right.
space of like,
Yeah.
I can manifest anything in my
Yeah, that's like a
life.
big thing now
It's
that
I
people
think
talk
people
about.
try to use mantras to have what's called an internal locus of control.
Right.
I can control my environment by just speaking it into existence. Like, I will be successful. I will be wealthy. I will be,
Yeah.
like, wealth will find me. I've
Yeah.
heard people use mantras and manifestation in a way to
Control.
gain control of their
Yeah.
environment. And in some ways, I think it minimizes the external factors that impact those kind of things.
Yep.
So in the
Yep.
manifestation space, a dangerous idea, like an idea that might be helpful, like it might be helpful for you to be like, I strive for wealth. I strive
Yeah.
for wealth, or whatever your thing is. And I'm just thinking of wealth. I don't,
Yeah.
it's kind of the first one that popped up. But when you start connecting, I can control my level of wealth through manifesting statements. And
Right.
anybody who isn't wealthy is just not manifesting hard enough. Now you start disconnecting from the reality. You start
Right.
disconnecting from the fact that there are some people who could say, I will be wealthy every day of their life
And it won't
and never
happen.
be wealthy because
Yeah.
of systemic issues. You
Yeah.
can't always manifest things with a complete disregard
Right.
for the structures that create barriers for people or that create difficulties for families. So
Yeah.
I think this is a great example of a mantra because it has to do with her personally. It
Yeah.
has to do with her mindset when she says, I will not be afraid. It's, what am I doing? What is my mindset like? What are my
Right.
emotions like? So, this is the next two issues we're going to go through are ones that I don't think are huge themes, but I think too we've gone over like trauma and
Yeah.
enslavement, and we've
The big things.
like we've taken on some pretty big topics. And I
Mhm.
think there are some womanhood things that happen in these books that are really interesting and that I want to kind of pick out of the context of the book
Yeah.
and cast it out here. At the very beginning of the book, and I will tell you, this is something that I did not really think about on a deeper level till the third read. So if you
Oh, okay.
I didn't even remember
Wow.
this element as I went into it. This was
Yeah.
something I kind of stumbled upon. But a moment that really had me kind of like going like, Selena, really?
Yeah.
Um at the very beginning of the book, she talks about how she's never really had women friends and that she shies away from the idea of it. And specifically, she says she had sworn never to trust girls again, especially girls with agendas and power of their own, girls who would do anything to get what they wanted. But Selena wondered if she had been wrong. It's that last part that like redeems it a little bit to me, but it comes
Right.
across as very much that like guys girl mentalities where it's like,
Hate.
oh, you're a guy's girl, you're not one of those girls girl, like you're not,
Yeah.
you're tough and you can hang with the dudes, which if you have guy friends, I love that, like
Yeah.
have guy friends, but I think it also can be a bit of a toxic thing
Mhm.
if the standard is supposed to be you being a guy's girl. Like, I
Right.
have to drink whiskey and talk baseball and like, and I'm thinking about how potentially, again, there is nothing wrong with being a girl and having guy friends. There's nothing wrong with drinking whiskey. There's nothing wrong with talking baseball.
Right.
All of those things are hobbies that women everywhere have
Mhm.
and friendships that women everywhere have.
Yeah.
I think what we're talking about is that being the goal or the standard and then
Right.
poo-pooing everybody else.
And
Like,
already, like, writing off any other woman that you
that
may meet.
has agendas or power. Like, that's the part that makes me go, ew.
Right,
Is
because it's almost, like, misogynistic in a way.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's looking at it's saying like I automatically am not going to trust other girls and I'm not going to befriend other girls, especially girls with power. What?
Weird.
What? So how do you think this guys girl message can impact relationships between women in the real world space?
Mm. So this is what we call a pick me girl.
Oh, yep.
So this
A
is what
little
we
bit.
yeah. So because I feel like as women, we
Mm,
should uplift each other and not kind of bash one another, and we already receive so much criticism and all these things from men. So why would you as a woman go and be part of that when there are so many amazing women in the world? Like, maybe you have been wronged by women before.
mhm.
I don't see how that makes you wanna go be man's best friend.
Yeah, and I like that you highlight the kind of competitive nature that can come out of that.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm a guy's girl, that means that I can only be friends with guys, which
Right.
means that my friend group can't include other girls. And
Mhm.
that's where you start to lean into this really gross, like, comp girl versus girl competition, and,
Yeah.
like, I have to be the one that is the guy's girl. I
That
have to
has
be the
all the
cool one.
attention.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a very narrow trope of the perfect guy's girl that
Yeah.
exists, again, in the minds of men. Selena's friendship with Nehemiah, and this is what redeems it for me because she
Mm.
starts from that guy's girl place where she's like, "I don't befriend women, and I don't befriend women in power,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Gross."
Yeah.
And then she discovers through her friendship with Nehemiah, she's like, "I was wrong about that." Like, this girl is
Yeah.
awesome, and she uplifts me and I uplift her, and I think she discovers the power of female friendships
And I
throughout.
feel like that type of energy of, like, being so against women or, like,
Mm.
not wanting to be friends with women or whatever, it can also come up from a place of, like, insecurity,
Sure.
of not being able to relate or feeling, like, less than or
Mm,
something there that,
mm,
you have that projects to that extent of
mm.
overgeneralizing what, "Oh, I'm not gonna be a friend. I'm not gonna be friends with women."
Yes.
It's there should be more than that.
And I think our next thing is also having to do kind of with womanhood and
Mm.
with the experience of people who have periods during this book, which I thought was a baller move.
Mm.
Sarah J. Maas had Selena go through some stuff in regards to her period. When she's in Endivere, she's severely emaciated. She's, working hard, long, hard hours. And so she stopped having her period, which is a very common experience for somebody who is either not eating enough or is experiencing high levels of stress or trauma. And once she starts, eating and training and sort of getting back into things over at Rifthold, she starts getting her period again. And part of her getting her period is her experiencing severe cramping and even vomiting during her period. And it's such a funny scene because like Kale comes in to talk to her and she's like, "Kale, I don't feel good." And he's like, "Blah blah blah blah." And she's like, "No, Kale, really, please leave." He's like, "Da da 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 da."
Oh my
And she's like,
gosh.
"Kale, I'm about to throw up on you." And then she fucking throws up everywhere. And he's like, "Oh, are you not well?" And she's like,
I tried
I
to tell you.
I tried to get you out of here, but I have my period. And so Kale like is very embarrassed and runs out. And Dorian is cooler about it and he like tries to like come in and play cards and distract her. But um for people with periods, and I like that we from book 1 have this as a topic within the book as a way to be like this is something that happens to people's bodies and like
Yeah.
it's a part of hormonal cycles. But for
Mhm.
people with periods, how do you see hormonal cycles impacting mental health? Either with, like things like PMS or PMDD, like people who are experiencing significant symptoms during their cycles. And also with things like childbirth, menopause. So these monthly cycles as well as these
Yeah.
life cycles. What are you seeing in the space around hormones and cycles? And how can we work with people or work with clients to deal with shifts in hormones and
Mm.
hormonal experiences?
Yeah, so I feel like with very drastic hormonal shifts, you definitely, again, we would probably recommend you to speak to a medical doctor to check
Mm,
your hormones, do your blood work, and things like that, and do the medical aspect of, kind of checking yourself. And then in the counseling space, I mean, in the various cycles that we have with our period,
mm,
we have like the luteal phase and all the other ones, ovulation, all of that. We have different symptoms. And if you
yeah.
track your period, there's amazing apps that um, kind of tell you like what are like the common symptoms of this phase of your period. So
Yep.
one that I really like is called Stardust. It's
Mm,
it's really cute. So I feel like a lot of the information that we have with our mental health connected to our hormones and our period that happens to us biologically,
mm,
are things that we should learn about in school. Like
mm.
being aware of like how you feel the week before your period,
Yeah.
versus like how you feel during your period and things like that. Like getting more headaches, getting more irritable, and things like that. So um, being able to have that knowledge is really important so you can prepare for yourself.
Mm,
And it's something that I have talked out about with clients where it's like, okay, we know maybe clients who have PMDD. So
mm,
if we know that the second week of like your menstrual cycle is like a really hard week for you, what can we do to prepare
sure.
to uplift you, and tools that you'll have in the low days?
It's that building awareness,
Yeah.
because I don't know if this has ever been an experience for you, but the experience of having a day that's really off and you're like, "Why am I crying all the time? Why do I
Yeah.
feel this way?" And I'm not saying that everybody goes through that. Everybody's different, but for me, it's like there's a couple days where I'm like, "Why is everything bad?" And then you're like, get your period and you're like,
Makes sense.
again, like I've had this happen so many times. And so helping clients to just build awareness of like
Yeah.
what days are might be tougher days. And not
Yeah.
always. Each cycle is different.
Mhm.
Everybody's stuff is different. But just having some compassion and going, "Oh, like my hormones cycle in this way, so it makes sense, if I'm not feeling great." Maybe not sort of berate myself for that, but
Right.
recognize the role that my hormones might play in that.
Yeah, and just being able to be kind to yourself and
Mm,
support yourself in the time that you need if you do need to like have like an extra session, or if you're
mm,
really going through a hard time, or again talking to your doctor, um do those things to help get you through something that will,
mm,
like, for most people will happen monthly,
mm,
like, you get your cycle monthly. So but then obviously for people who don't have that
mm.
monthly, it can be a little bit more, like, out of the blue. So
Yeah.
that's why it's so important to get your checkup and really get more knowledgeable of your situation.
I think too the role of advocating with medical professionals and diagnosis is huge.
Yeah.
I've had lots of opportunities to work with clients around like I'm really nervous, I'm going to the doctor and they always try to rush me or
Mm,
and I'm not saying that's all doctors. I know lots of great medical professionals who do amazing work. And I've had some experiences where clients have reported I feel really rushed or judged or
yeah.
like I'm not believed. And so being able, if you are unfortunately someone who runs into a medical professional who you feel like isn't listening or is not
Yeah.
believing you, being able to self advocate and say, okay, here are the questions I need answered. I'm going to
Yeah.
use the time that I have paid for or that my insurance is paying for or not paying for and should be paying for. I'm going to use the time that I've been allotted to really get my answers and help me understand better.
Yeah.
And as so I have PCOS and so this realm is very familiar, like
Mhm.
the working with sort of or not unregulated, but different cycling and that kind of stuff. And so being able to um, just make sure that your care providers
Yeah.
are knowledgeable and on board and on your team and working for you and helping you understand your condition, so important for clients.
Yeah, and I feel like you're not married to the doctor that doesn't treat you well
Mm,
either. I feel
mm.
like you can always kind of go to a different doctor, make sure you have like the right vibe that you want with your doctor too. Like you
Yep.
don't have to just stay with this doctor because you saw them already for a
Mm.
certain amount of time. Like no, you can get better care and you are allowed to check out different ones.
And you deserve that. You
Yeah.
deserve to have the care that's going to help you the most. And that's where, again, counselors can be really helpful because we have referrals for
Mhm.
doctors in the community that we trust and things like that. So
Yeah.
it's finding a doctor that you trust and that you have a good vibe with can be a bit of a process, and that's okay.
Yeah, and to touch on, like, the postpartum, like, that's
Mm.
definitely a really, difficult time for both women and men who could deal with postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, and things like that, so, that's a big shift where your hormones are all over the place and
Yes.
trying to realign themselves back to normal after that
Mm.
huge change in your body. So,
Mm.
your needs are not being met, you're tired, you're hungry, you're maybe dealing with like a baby who's having eating difficulties and it could really be a tough time. And having your support is so important
Mm.
to make sure that your mental health is okay cuz things can get scary pretty quickly. So, making sure that you're taken care of and having your support system in that postpartum time is really important. And being okay with saying if you're not feeling right or if you're
Yep.
not feeling good. Like that stigma of like pretending that parenthood and like having a baby is all easy and simple and oh it should be okay. No,
Mm.
sometimes it's really hard for that adjustment to happen and that's when, some unfortunate events can occur because
Yeah.
the women who are going through that or like the parents who are going through that are not receiving the care and support that they should have been receiving.
Yeah, it's that listening to your body, listening
Yeah.
to your like intuition, listening to your emotions, and recognizing that you are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to
Yeah.
take up space with questions, concerns. I think really good care providers are those that encourage questions. Your
Mhm.
provider should want you to be knowledgeable about this
Yeah.
stuff. And if you get the sense that your care team is hiding things from you or is not giving you the full picture, you deserve to know what's going on and you deserve to ask all the questions that you want to ask.
Yeah, and even doing, like, the, mental health, like, assessments during,
Mm,
like, postnatal visits and things like that, pediatricians, like, if, like, your doctors are showing you signs that they are aware of mental health and even assessing you during those paperworks that you're doing,
mm.
um, yeah, that should be a good sign, but being able to have the conversation is important.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is sort of question part 2 on this topic because I thought that it was also very telling what Kale
Mm,
and Dorian's responses to her period were.
right.
Kale was a ninny about it and
Yeah, I
like
didn't like
just
that.
it's like, "Oh,
He lost a point there.
lost a but you're still team Kale." That's interesting. Now that we're
Yeah.
having this
Yeah, now that
conversation.
we're having the conversation, I don't know yet.
Yeah, Kale kinda moonwalks out nervously and doesn't wanna talk about it. Dorian sees Kale sprinting down the hallway away from a woman with her period and
Yeah.
it basically gives him shit and
It's
is
giving
like,
very, immature.
yeah. Dorian's like, "What? Have you never seen blood before, Captain of the Guard?" And he goes
Well,
into
not coming out that way.
yeah, he's like, "This is different." Uh, but really, and there, I will say also, just sidebar, there are a couple moments when Kale, it's like, Kale, you are captain of the motherfucking guard. Grow up. This
Mm,
is one of those for me.
I see, I see.
Grow up. And Dorian kind of says that. Grow up. And he goes in with a pack of cards. He's like, "You want to play cards?" And she's like, "Get out of here." And he's like, this doesn't bother me. And he kind of tries to distract her and
Mhm.
whatever. But this made me think about loved ones of people with periods. So if you have a loved one in your life who gets a period and you're not a person who gets a period, how can we be more supportive, more knowledgeable, and basically keep us from being like a kale? Like, how can we stop being just uninformed and
Yeah.
skittish around something that's a very natural cycle for many people?
I mean, I feel like being in tune with your cycle and your needs is the first thing, like for the person who has the period, right?
Yeah.
And then being able to communicate your needs to your partner is also the next step. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like knowing what you need, what type of support you need, if you need chocolate that first day, that's okay.
Have first day chocolates on
Chocolate,
hand.
blanket, maybe a good book.
Sure.
No responsibilities that day. I think that would be a great
That's the key right there. That's therapist approved.
yes. So just being able to like let the person know like, hey, I have really bad like the first days I get my period is like really bad. Like this
Mm.
is kind of like what type of support I need.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I need you to leave me alone, leave me alone. But yeah, I think it's important to just like communicate what your needs are emotionally, physically, all
Mm-hmm.
of that, just so it can be like a process that you're, probably gonna go through every month and the person will be prepared.
So those are our therapy mind deep dives. In our last section here, we are talking unhinged thoughts and theories.
Mm,
And I need to recuse myself from this.
right.
And I'm going to be acting for my life right now. I'm getting prepared. I might not look you in the eyes because you're too good, and I can't do it. So, what do you think is going to happen in the coming books? What do you think's happening next, Yarlin?
So, and I love the way that kind of like went through the plots and thoughts throughout this episode that we're recording, because I feel like it brought a lot of more memories back to light of what I remember, because I heard this on audiobook. So
Sure.
I definitely want to see where this love triangle goes.
Okay.
So that's something I have in mind. And I feel like after we dove deep into this episode, I feel like I liked the book a little bit more than when I initially read it, because I guess it took time to like process it and maybe talk about it. You're such a great storyteller, so I feel like
Girl, thank you.
I feel like that
I'm flipping
added
my hair that's up in a ponytail right now.
toss
Toss toss.
I feel like that was a great like experience. So another great reason why we have this podcast. People will
Absolutely.
also
Vibe with it.
yeah.
Hopefully.
So I remember Elena was talking to Selena about, oh, like you need to save people and all of this and all that. So I remember writing down who are the people who she needs to save, and I wonder why she herself needs to be saved.
Why Selena needs to be saved?
Because that's what Elena said. Oh, like you have people who you need to save, and you yourself might need to be saved. Something like that.
Interesting.
The queen told her this after answering to the amulet and being the king's champion. That's what I wrote down. So I'm interested to see how that goes. I don't have any other thoughts or theories.
Well, I was gonna say, do you like if you could like theorize, like where do you think if you could like project out what you think the plot's gonna be?
I'm assuming there are gonna be like maybe some people like from her land that need to be saved.
Okay.
How she will need to be saved. Maybe there's some type of mission that goes wrong and someone needs to come in and save her.
Okay.
I think that's all. The sword will come into play. I'm sure.
Okay. All right.
That will be kind of her weapon, maybe that's passed down.
Okay.
Somehow. Need to know what's going on with the king. Why is he giving sus vibes?
He is sus, yeah.
Yes.
Also, I'm curious because you said like earlier on, you said Kale was the like end game guy.
Yeah.
Are you still Kale's end game?
I like Dorian's vibe now. I like
Oh.
him a little bit more.
Post period incident.
Yeah. I just want to see like where that goes, I guess. And
If
like
you
who
had
wins
to
her
pick.
who wins her over.
If you had to pick, like who you think is endgame. Who do you think it is?
Feel like Dorian because
you heard it here, folks. Dorian is endgame.
I see it because it could be a way of her like getting that like princess title or whatever if she marries him, and like that could be like a further way of power and her freedom and extending the story a little bit more. Maybe they're
like they get together and she like they stay together or something, or what do you mean?
Yeah, maybe something.
I'm not doing anything.
Maybe something like that because
you are trying to read me so hard, and I'm not playing, Yarlin.
Girl, no, but I feel like Cole or Kale, whatever. I don't think he's got the moves.
Okay.
You know, I think he's a nice guy, and I'm down for an underdog, but I don't think he has the maturity level for her. I think
he's not there.
I like him as a person, but now as the story develops, I think Dorian is giving something else. He's giving more. He has more on the table.
Okay. I'm not giving
I can't
you
wait
anything,
to find
girl.
out. Maybe I'm wrong.
Girl, I'm not telling you shit.
Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out in the next episode.
You know, we might. But as of today, of this recording, Dorian's endgame.
I'll say that, I guess. I'm like so tired. I don't know.
Hey, it's just for today. You could change your mind tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm going to stick with Kale because
oh shit.
I don't know. I originally was with him, but then after the period incident, I'm a little like
but why would you think it's Kale is endgame though? Like what would make
I liked him because it seemed like he cared for her more as a person, and I feel like that type of like emotional bond is much more impactful than whatever type of like physical attraction she has with Dorian. But
that's a point.
Dorian can offer her more. I think.
So are you saying Kale's endgame or are you saying Dorian's endgame?
I'm gonna go with Kale, and we're leaving it at that because I don't know, Dorian could go other ways. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm doing Kale.
So as of today, as of recording, Kale's endgame.
Yeah.
Okay. We will find out.
Until further notice.
You reserve the right to amend your statement.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Kale's endgame. Dorian ain't shit. No, she didn't say that. I did. I'm just putting words in your mouth now. So that is going to be the end of our episode on Throne of Glass, which is the first book in the Throne of Glass series. Woo! By Sarah J. Maas. Please note again that everything we talk about today is for fun. It's about analyzing literature and bringing in some of our professional experiences and things that we have learned along the way, but it should not be used to diagnose, treat, or address any individual mental health concerns or conditions. If you feel like you need mental health treatment, please do make sure to seek out your own individualized mental health care. In addition, if you would like to reach out to us, you can find us on Instagram at FayandFablesPod, or you can reach out to us via email at fayandfablespod@gmail.com.
And let us know if you want merch. Like, dude. We have those ideas in mind, and I think we're going to make it happen. So if you want to
get
do a little pre-order merch,
listen,
we can make that happen.
We can and we would.
We're going to workshop the ideas, the designs.
We're making ourselves merch. We're starting there. Let's start with that.
We're going to get crafty with it, and we'll come back and we'll let y'all know.
Absolutely. Have a good one, y'all.
All right. Bye.